With the 7th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select J.C. Latham, tackle, Alabama.
He presents all the traits that you want in a tackle, and right or left, he's got the traits to do either one, and that part of it I think is exciting, and I think he feels the same way, which it's always good when a guy wants to prove that they can do the thing that you're asking them to do.
Hate it. That's right. I'm just going to be honest with you. The J.C. Latham pick, hate it last night at 14, though I think most of you, or excuse me, at 7, it should have been at 14. Hate it, although I'm sure most of you probably already know that from the draft show last night. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, which today is Bridgestone Arena on this Fireball Hot Take Friday, ahead of the Predators and the Vancouver Canucks for game number 3 tonight right here at Bridgestone Arena. Coverage at 5:30, puck drop at 6. To the draft we go. Ian, did you listen to the draft show last night when the Titans were on the clock at 7?
I made it till about 10:15, 10:30.
Okay.
p.m. Yep.
So you heard the live reaction last night on the draft show.
I did, correct.
I was not a fan of the pick of J.C. Latham. In fact, yesterday on the program, I said, whatever you do with the 7th pick. Now, if you trade back, it's different. But whatever you do at 7, whether Alt's gone and it ends up being Neighbors or it ends up being Bowers or it ends up being Adunze, whatever you do, do not take J.C. Latham with the 7th pick. And what do the Titans do? Now, let me just say this. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I was wrong that Jim Harbaugh was going to go offensive line at 5. I thought there was no way. They have 2 tackles. They have no receivers. They have a franchise quarterback. They have a left tackle. And they took the tackle. So I've been wrong before. But when it comes to the pick of J.C. Latham, and then the Titans getting up in front of everybody and telling them he's going to be a left tackle, even though he never played it in college, even though his body type is not that of a left tackle, even though all the draft gurus, and I understand if it's one draft guru that says something, Mel Kiper's not already right, is not always right, Dane Brugler's not always right, these draft gurus and Daniel Jeremiah and everything else. But when they all say this guy's a right tackle and he might actually be a right guard, which they're all saying, he's probably not a left tackle. So I hope I'm wrong. But deep down inside, I know I'm not. And once again, the Titans decided to make a draft choice, a high draft choice for the 2nd year in a row. The Titans made a high draft choice that they have to explain. Last year, it was, what position are you going to play the 11th overall pick at? And the Titans were like, oh, we don't care. We'll play him at any position. Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. What position he's going to play? Mike Vrabel. We're going to start him at offensive line and go from there. This year, it was, we're going to move him to left tackle. Has he ever played left tackle before in college? No. But you're sure that this 360-pound mammoth of a right tackle is going to be able to flip over to left. When everybody talks about how big J.C. Latham is, that usually is a sign that he's probably a right tackle. The bigger you are, the fatter you are, the more likely you are to play on the right side or at guard. Just think about the difference between Jack Conklin, a right tackle, and Taylor Lewan, a left tackle. So last year it was, we don't know what position he's going to play. And this year it's, we think he can play this position. Meanwhile, when the Titans were on the clock at 7, I had a former NFL head coach text me, take the tight end from Georgia. He is a future Hall of Famer. A former NFL coach texted me that. But nope, not the Titans. They know. They always know. Right? The Titans always have the answers. This leadership structure that nobody else uses, it's going to be the best. This guard that we're taking at 11 that played tackle in college, has never played guard before, he's going to be the best. This offensive line coach from Colgate that's got no experience, he's going to be the best. They always know, right? And then last night when they explained their pick, the GM and the head coach, first of all, again, had to explain it. A massive fail when Brian Callahan opened the door of, hey, if this idea that they're going to use the 7th overall pick on a tackle and he can't actually play left tackle, that'll be fine. Here's what Brian Callahan said.
We got a comfort level with the player and the athlete and what he's capable of. And so having him go to left and start out there, and look, if he doesn't feel comfortable there, it doesn't look right and look natural, move him back to right. And like I said the other day, you need tackles, period. So it doesn't really affect us one way or the other which tackle is which tackle he plays. So he's just a really strong, powerful, big, athletic human. There's not a lot of guys that look like him on earth, so we like that.
You know, if he moves to left tackle and he can't do it, that's fine. We'll move him back to right tackle. I mean, it's fine. Hell no, it is not. This is the 7th pick in the draft. This isn't a 4th rounder that's like, hey, we're going to see if he can play left tackle. We're going to train him maybe to swing a little bit. We're going to see what he can do. We're going to see what he can't do. This isn't that. This is the 7th pick. This is supposed to be a franchise foundational piece. And you're like, hey, if it fails here, we'll just move him over there. Did the Giants in their press conference say, hey, if Malik Neighbors doesn't work out as a wide receiver, we'll move him to running back? I assume they did not. This dude better be your left tackle, and he better be good. And I'm just going to tell Brian Callahan this is the way it is. If he's not your left tackle and he's not good, you will find yourself with the same fate as the previous coach. Oh, you had all the answers, and then you didn't. And then there's the GM. And his tenure, I'm sorry, and it's not just him, because they got Chad Brinkers, the president, and there's a collaboration, and there's a committee, and this is how they make decisions and all kinds of stuff. This tenure of Titan football cannot end fast enough. Like, I'm telling you, he gets up there and he brags yesterday about, well, we like guys with versatility, just like when Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
Just like when PT was able to move to left tackle. Last year, when PT played left tackle, he was in on 66 passing snaps and gave up 11 pressures. That's horrible. I mean, and that's the guy your GM is bragging about, saying, hey, Nick Petit, he was able to move over last year, and he sucked. And that's what happens with the Titans. The Titans even said, hey, if some of these things don't work out, we'll be okay at left tackle if Latham ends up not working out at left tackle, which, by the way, to me, once again, is not an option. But if Latham ends up not working out at left tackle, they say, it's fine. We got plenty of guys to play left tackle.
If he goes back to right, you say it doesn't affect you one way or the other. If he's playing on the right, you still don't have a left tackle, no?
Correct. We have guys on the roster that we like. We're not done adding players if we feel like we need to find someone somewhere else. It's just part of the process, and we picked the best tackle that we felt like was available to us. And like I said, whether he plays right or left remains to be seen, but we're going to start him at left.
And we mentioned it. When we spoke earlier this week, Paul, about we're getting through this draft. We're going to draft the people where we pick, but that doesn't mean player acquisition's over. So we're going to continue to look to improve just the whole roster as a whole. And like I said, I have all the confidence in the world in the kid that he's going to figure it out just because of his makeup, who he is as a human, who he is as an athlete, who he is as a football player. But we're going to always look to continue to add to our roster.
Think about this. The Titans just used the 7th pick in the NFL draft. They're saying, we think he can play left tackle. We don't know. We think he can play left tackle, and if he can't play left tackle, it'll be okay because it's the middle of April. It's really the end of April. It's almost the beginning of May, and we'll figure out left tackle along the way. That's what got the last two guys fired. This exact thing. when David Quessenberry was not tendered as a restricted free agent. And look, Quessenberry wasn't good, but he at least could start if you had to have him start. But when the Titans said, oh, no, we'll be fine. Radens, he was terrible last year, but he'll be okay this year. And if it doesn't work with Radens, we'll put the third-round rookie in. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. What happened? They got to training camp. They realized they were in deep doo-doo. That led to them trading for Dennis Daly. They had one injury. Dennis Daly had to play. You know how this ended. Same with Jalen Duncan last year because they were sure, hey, Andre Dillard, he just didn't get an opportunity in Philadelphia. That's all it is because, teams really go out of their way not to try to give first-round draft choices opportunities. Unserious. Hey, we're still player acquisition season. We can still go get a swing tackle to put him out there to masquerade as a potential starter. Unbelievable. If J.C. Latham can't play left tackle, you are just as screwed as you were last year. With the difference being that you don't have Derrick Henry to kind of bail you out sometimes. By the way, I had a college coach text me after the pick was over. In fact, I turned my phone over for between 5 and 7. I turned my phone over, did not look at it. So it was case down. I didn't want anybody tipping any picks. I didn't want, for the sake of the show, I wanted the live reaction. So when my heart broke over Alt and then I went insane over Latham, I didn't look at anything. I picked up my phone. I saw a text from my dad saying, uh-oh. And then I saw a text from the former NFL head coach who said, take the tight end, he'll be a Hall of Famer. And I saw a text from a college coach that said, bust, with 2 exclamation points. But the Titans have all the answers, and they always do, don't they? Remember last year, they had all the answers. Oh, no. What do you mean? This will be fine. Even though Nicholas Ferrer got suspended, we've got Jamarco Jones and Chris Hubbard and OJ, and it's like, who is OJ? It's training camp. We don't have time for all of this. But they knew the answers. And half of the we know the answers, don't ask us crew's already been fired. If this one doesn't work out, the other one can join them. Maybe it'll all work out, but I doubt it. Just like I doubted the guard that they drafted at 11 last year. Just like deep down inside, I'm kind of doubting L'Jarius Sneed's knees. And look, as far as Skoronski's concerned long-term, taking a guard with the 11th pick, maybe he turns into John Hanna. As far as L'Jarius Sneed's knees are concerned, maybe the rest of the league is wrong, and Chad Brinker's AI curing cancer business school model will actually detect that L'Jarius Sneed's knees will hold up for 4 years, and maybe with this pick, he turns into Trent Williams. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong. I am a Titans fan. And no matter how many times people say, you're not a Titans fan, you know deep down in your heart that I love this football team, and I am so tired of the misery that is being a Titan fan. I hope I'm wrong, but when the Titans draft a guy who people think might be a guard, and nobody thinks is a left tackle, with a Brock Bowers on the board, with a Rome Odunze on the board, good luck. Now, I don't know what the ratio is because last night many of you were devastated when this pick came down the tube. I do not know. This is something fan bases do. I don't do this, but fan bases do, which is they hate a coaching hire. They hate a draft pick. They hate a trade. They hate a quarterback. And then by the time 2 o'clock rolls around the next day, they've heard something that convinces them that, this might work out. And then they're like, this is our guy. I did that with Mariota. I hated the pick, and then I convinced myself that Mariota was a good quarterback. I learned a lesson then, and I'm not changing now. I'm sure many of you were as devastated as I was, but I'm also sure many of you have already changed your tune. All I'm going to say is I think that after the season we had to sit through last year, the lows, the embarrassments, the Cleveland game, Andre Dillard. The Titans should have done better than let their offensive line coach make the 7th overall pick. And they probably should have picked a guy who at least they know can play the position they want him to play. So that's how we're starting. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And the Titans, boy, they wasted no time last night in spinning a narrative to try to turn perception on their side. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, we are live at Bridgestone Arena. Again, game number 3 tonight. And, of course, we'll get to your phones because it is a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and we'll do that next. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. That's right. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and I promise they could do the exact same for you. Smile and save this month with Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, because from now until April 30th, you can take advantage of big savings on home systems. Enjoy up to $1,500 off select new HVAC systems, whole home water filtration and descalers, or select new whole home generators. If you have been waiting for the right time to upgrade or replace your systems, now is the time. So visit happyhiller.com today for details. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today.
Bill
Here you go. Here's
does
Goodell.
clean
Here's
it up.
Goodell.
In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select J.C. Latham.
Oh, no! No, God!
You know what?
No.
The liquid in Jared's glass.
Man.
Hey, do you believe
I'm
in?
sweating.
Hey, Jared, do you
And now
believe?
it's brown.
Do you believe in Bill Callahan? Do you believe in Bill Callahan?
1,000.
Do you or do you not? But this is a question. This is a serious question. Do you believe in Bill Callahan? Jared?
That was the draft show last night. Now, look, I know that we ran a promo for a month leading up to the draft show saying, we've got the experts, Derek Mason, Chris Sanders, Trevor Maddich, and Jared Stillman's live reaction. And it was me going crazy last year when they drafted Skoronski. And when I left my house yesterday on my drive in, I heard the midday show say, what are the odds that Jared melts down tonight on the air? And they put it at minus 650. And I was driving in the car, Ian, I kid you not, and I'm thinking, these suckers. Like, everybody's going to tune into the draft show thinking I'm going to lose it. And instead, when they pick Joe Alt, or they pick Roma Dunze, or they pick Brock Bowers, or even if they picked Olu Fashanu, I'm not going to go crazy.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace getting them odds.
Take it to the bank. I mean, I knew that, I was going to be happy last night. And then as I texted Chase last night when we got off the air, I said, well, the people that tuned in for the meltdown, they got their money's worth last night because, boy, was there a meltdown. Now, as soon as the Titans made the pick, and I guarantee a lot of you were like me last night when they made that pick. Can we get that live reaction again just one more time? This is how I think 70% of the Titan fan base felt. Here you go. Here's Goodell. Here's Goodell.
In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select J.C. Latham.
Oh, no! Oh, no! That's it. Right there. I mean, how many of you guys were like, that's how I felt when they drafted Jake Locker. Now, in all fairness, that's how I felt when they drafted Chris Johnson, too. So make of that what you will. But the Titans immediately had to run to Diana Rossini to say, Bill Callahan loved this pick. This is Bill Callahan's favorite offensive lineman. And I'm like, so is Bill Callahan the head coach now? Because Bill Callahan's been a head coach before. It wasn't very pretty. Is Bill Callahan the GM? We had Mark Dominic on the show yesterday, and I said to him, I go, if Bill Callahan and Brian Callahan came to you, you were GM, and they said, Mark, we got to take Joe Alt over Brock Bowers, or in this case, J.C. Latham. We got to take him over Brock Bowers. We got to take him. I said, would you listen to the guru, or would you say, well, And Mark Dominic said, 37-year-old me in my second draft like Rand Carthon, I probably would have listened to him. 53-year-old me would have said, nope, we're taking the tight end. But I don't know if Brian Callahan can say no to his dad. And I don't know if Rand Carthon can say no to anybody over there. And I don't know what Chad Brinker's opinion is, and I don't know what his culpability is, president of football operations and scouting analytics and field turf. I don't know. And if Bill Callahan is so important to this process, where we're not even considering Brock Bowers or Roma Dunze or any of these other guys, why don't they give him some ambiguous title like Senior Executive President of Coaching Acquirement and Development? And let him do the press conference, or at least open it. And maybe let him coach a preseason game. It's like, oh, Titan fans, it's okay. Bill Callahan likes this pick. No crap, Bill Callahan likes the pick. He's a coach. But there's a reason why coaching staffs and scouting staffs are different. Now, I want Bill Callahan to have input, but I don't want Bill Callahan to make the pick. And I don't want them to sell this to you of like, no, it's okay because Bill Callahan said it was. Like last night, they made the pick, and Trevor on the draft show was like, absolutely, positively no. He cannot play left tackle. Then the Titans had a press conference to say he's going to play left tackle, and Trevor goes, well, if Bill Callahan thinks so. I'm like, Trevor, I love you, baby, but don't let your eyes fool you. Come on now. Now, that said, the only reason at all that I think this pick has a chance is because Bill Callahan's going to be coaching them. That is the only reason I think there's a chance that this works. If they had drafted J.C. Latham, a right tackle out of Alabama last year, and Jason Hodeling was the coach, and they said, we're going to flip him to left tackle. Well, first of all, Vrabel would have never done that. If you had said to Vrabel, where are you going to play him? Vrabel's like, he's going to be on the team. That's what I'll tell you. But if they had tried to do this with Jason Hodeling, there is a 0% chance this would have worked. Now, there is a shot that this will work with Bill Callahan coaching him, because Bill Callahan's a good coach. But to sit there and say that, Bill Callahan loved this guy, so now it's a good pick. Bill Belichick put his board out on Pat McAfee. He had J.C. Latham like 13th or 14th. And I'm not saying Belichick's the end-all, be-all, but I haven't talked to anybody that said J.C., other than the Titans, I haven't talked to anybody who said J.C. Latham's better than Roma Dunze, or anybody that said J.C. Latham's better than Brock Bowers. And I think because a lot of us, now let me say this. If you listen to TD when he comes on the show, TD's been saying for about 5 weeks that the Titans love J.C. Latham. You know, he was talking about how Alt and Latham are very close to the Titans, which also makes me think there's a really good chance the Titans are going to draft Trevondre Sweat tonight after what TD said yesterday, because TD is clearly plugged in, was on the money as far as the Titans' love for J.C. Latham. But again, it's like, did we just say, okay, well, who's going to make the pick here? Bill Callahan is. Fine, make him GM. But the fact that they have to tell you Bill Callahan loves the pick, so that's why we should like it. Come on now. We're smarter than that. Again, Belichick on his board had a Dunze 6 and Bowers 7. You're picking 7th. That's what you're supposed to do. If you want to trade down, and I don't know who was calling or whatever, if you want to trade down, that's fine. But nope, not the Titans. The Titans always know. The Titans are always smarter than the rest of the league. The rest of the league says we're not touching L'Jarius Sneed's knees with a 10-foot pole, including the team that had L'Jarius Sneed. And the Titans said, we'll do it, $55 million guaranteed. Only the Titans. They know. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. All right, to your phone, 615-737-1025. Your reaction, a lot of you have been holding, so we'll get to you. Plus, I do have an apology I got to make. Now, it's not the apology that my dad probably wants me to make, but I do have an apology that I need to make, and I'll make it next, and then we'll get to your phones. Let's talk about Window Nation. I would never apologize for telling you about Window Nation, because Window Nation is the best. They are my number one pick for window replacement, and they should be your number one pick too. And with April being here, if your windows will not open for fresh air or seal tight to keep out pollen and bugs, then talk to Window Nation. Because right now, for every 2 windows you'll buy, you'll get 2 windows free. There is no limit on how much you could save. Plus, you could save even more with no interest or payments for 24 months. With proven quality, you'll get affordable windows that meet or beat the national brands. So do not miss out. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com to schedule your free in-home estimate. Again, with no interest, no payments, and 2 windows free for every 2 windows you'll buy, there is no telling how much you will save. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
How's your anxiety level?
Bad.
The pick is in, Jared.
It's in.
Here he comes. Oh, here's the commish.
Let's see.
Here it comes.
If it's Joe Alt.
With the fifth pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Joe Alt.
Oh, my
No.
Jared is crying now. He doesn't know what the Titans are going to do now.
Tell him how you feel.
You guys got to go to Chris Sanders' Twitter feed because he's got video evidence of Jared.
Oh, my gosh.
Jared now has his head down on his right wrist. His left arm is bent around, and his left hand is in a tight fist. He's going to punch himself in the face in any minute.
Pain. Did you see Caroline's tweet last night, Ian?
Yeah, I did.
Caroline posted from the last 2 draft shows the same shot on the live stream of me with my head down on the desk in just utter agony after the Colts took Anthony Richardson last year and then after the Chargers took Joe Alt this year. So I owe everybody an apology. This is the my version of the Tiger Woods press conference, you know, where he talked about his Buddhist roots when he was talking about all the sex and the pills and the car wrecks and everything else, and he was asking for forgiveness. I apologize to everybody because I was 100% wrong about the Chargers. I swung and missed on a guarantee, which I don't often do around here. I thought, and remember, I came to you guys after the Super Bowl, and I said, I hear the Chargers might be looking at Joe Alt. But when the Chargers traded Keenan Allen, leaving themselves with 0 wide receivers, I figured there's no way that they're going to pass up on Malik Neighbors. And they passed on Malik Neighbors to take Joe Alt. And I can't believe it if I was a Charger fan, and I love Joe Alt, but if I was a Charger fan, I'd be mad because I've got a franchise quarterback and I've got no receivers for my franchise quarterback, but I got 3 tackles. But at the end of the day, I promised you guys that it wasn't going to happen. I was sure of it, and I was wrong. And I owe every single person an apology because of that. And so I have been wrong about things before, not very often, kidding. But, I mean, I was sure as shooting that the Chargers were not going to do that, especially after I heard Caroline talk about people in the league were saying that Joe Alt's people had told these teams he don't want to play right tackle. Supposedly, it's going to be Rashawn Slater that moves to right tackle, and Joe Alt's going to play left tackle. But I was wrong. All right, phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Alex has been waiting patiently and is going to kick us off today reacting to the J.C. Latham pick. Alex, go ahead.
Hey, Jared, how you doing?
Good.
I was driving down the interstate a couple of days ago, and I want to pat you on the back for that interview you did with Joe Alt. Your questions were right on. And one of the final questions was, how do you feel about playing on the right side? And do you remember him sort of hesitating and saying, well, I have to kind of alter my stance, and I'm sort of doing a little bit of practice on that. And then number 2, did you see his face when his name was announced on the couch?
I will tell you this, Alex. I know Joe Alt wanted to be here.
Yes, and that's when I saw his face on the couch, and he looked up like, what? What is this? And if I was Joe Alt, I would tell the Chargers, I'm not happy with this, and maybe you should trade me. And that's all I want to say to that, and that's how I feel.
Thanks,
but I want
Alex.
to pat you on the back. You did an excellent interview. You got 12 or 15 minutes out of him, very long. I said, when's he going to stop? When is he going to stop? And you were right on with that interview. I want to tell you that. Okay?
Thank you, Alex. Well, if you heard the interview with Joe Alt, and I appreciate your call, you know he's not going to do that. You know he's not going to tell the Chargers he's not going to do that. Joe Alt, I can promise you, Joe Alt wanted to be here. He'll never say that. He'll never admit to that. But I had the exact same feeling looking at Joe Alt on TV last night when he got picked, and he got up and kind of looked up, and then he gave, I think it was his mom that was next to him, gave her a hug, and then started hugging everybody else. And it was, to me, the look was, oh, crap. But then it was like, hold on, I'm on camera, everybody's cheering, I was just picked 5th in the draft. You know, it's like, well, let's be happy. But I can tell you, Joe Alt wanted to be a Titan. And Jared Stillman wanted Joe Alt to be a Titan. And today, he's not. Jake is up next here on our program on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's up, Jake?
Hey, man, I was with you last night when Neighbors got selected and Alt got selected. I was like, crap, we can blow this draft now. We can mess up here.
I know.
And then at that point, I was like, I want Bowers or trade back. And when we selected Latham, my head dropped. But now I've sat back like a lot of people, read my articles, read up on him, looked up what Saban had to say about him. He's obviously just going to say good things. And I've got faith. I think we took the guy with the highest ceiling at a position we need. I know it's not the exact position, but my only problem is that short-term window where he's trying to figure out left tackle. I think that's where you can attack them.
And, Jake, I appreciate your call on that. And my thought on exactly what you're saying is I don't have a problem with the idea of thinking that you can turn a guy from a right tackle to a left tackle. Now, I don't think Latham's body is built to play left tackle. Again, think about the difference between Conklin and Lewan. And I remember when Lewan was going through his contract negotiations with the Titans. And I was talking about, well, you know, they can use the 2 tags and they can this and they can. And I was talking with some of Lewan's people at the time about, just this kind of thing. And I thought, well, maybe the leverage the Titans have is that they could say, well, okay, we'll just trade Lewan, and then we'll move Jack Conklin over to left tackle, and with the picks that we acquire for Lewan, we'll take a right tackle. And the old man looked at me, and he was like, Jack's a right tackle. And I said, well, Jack played left tackle in college. He goes, Jack's a right tackle. Like he kept saying that over and over again and laughing about it or whatever. And I think about body types. And there was all this talk about J.C. Latham and how big J.C. Latham is. He's the biggest guy, and that's right tackle. Like, that's Jack Conklin. And think about Jedrick Wills, who was flipped over to the left side by Bill Callahan, by the Browns, who they took 10th overall out of Alabama. Jedrick Wills does not have the body type that J.C. Latham has. J.C. Latham, I love my linemen fat. But left tackle's the one position where it's like, hey, man, you're going to have this 230-pound edge rusher who's going to be flying off there. You got to be able to move. And you can't be held down by all that fat. And so I think Latham's going to have to lose about 20 pounds in order to be able to play left tackle. So we're going to ask him to lose 20 pounds. And we're going to ask him to learn a new position. And we're going to do this in a time period where he's going to have 0 contact before July 29th. And just like we learned last year with Andre Dillard, if you screw this up when it's July 29th and you realize you've screwed it up, it's too late. It's too late at that point. Personally, I would prefer that the Titans put J.C. Latham at right tackle and draft a left tackle tonight, or sign Andrus Peat, put him at left tackle, put Latham at right tackle, and then after a year in the NFL, where Latham now knows what it takes to be a pro, and Latham knows what it's like to be coached, and you know how to coach him, then move him over to left tackle. That's what happened to Michael Roos. He started his career at right tackle, then he moved over to left tackle. Tyron Smith, Dallas Cowboys, Bill Callahan, started at right tackle. Then he moved over to left tackle. But to take him fresh out of college, where this guy's never played a snap, never put on a jock in the NFL, and say, okay, we're going to move you to a completely different position on the opposite side of the line, and we want you to play right away. Like, that's how dudes fail. And so I'm not a huge fan of that idea. And I know what you mean about, hey, the window, I worry about it. I don't care what Saban says. Saban's only going to say good things about Saban guys. So I'm not worried about that. But my thing with Latham is, I think Latham is a good prospect at 14. This is how I view this particular draft. And for the most part, most drafts. Now, next year's draft might be a lot worse than this, but again, for the most part, this is how I view most drafts. The 2022 draft was a terrible draft. that, like, once you got past 6, it was all bad, and even then it wasn't very good. There are usually about 16 first-round graded players. There are usually about 5 to 7 elite players in a draft. Elite prospects, I should say. Again, go back to that 2016 draft where you traded out of 1, and yes, the 2 quarterbacks, Goff and Wentz, were not elite prospects, but after that, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, Laramie Tunsil, like those guys were all elite prospects. To me, the elite prospects in this draft, Alt, Bowers, Neighbors, Harrison, so, I was not as in love with Odunze as a lot of other people, but I certainly think Odunze is a lot more elite of a prospect than Latham. And then when you're going to move Latham to the other side of the line and you're going to hope that it works, like the Giants are not hoping that Malik Neighbors can play wide receiver. This is the thing that I worry about. Now, the Titans clearly view this different than everybody else. The Titans they truly believe that he's an elite prospect. They think he's right there with Alt. TD told us. They think he and Alt are there together. But nobody else thinks that. Only the Titans. 615-737-1025. More of your phones. 615-737-1025. We'll get to those coming up next here on Draft Reaction Day here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. And there was one thing that Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan said yesterday. There's one thing that I was floored by, and there's one thing that I was angered by. We'll get to the floored thing. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. And while I got you all here, let me tell all the fine folks about FanDuel Sportsbook. Because FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving all customers 2 chances to bring home a big win with a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend in the playoffs. Just place an SGP on any. That's right. Just place an SGP on any of those weekend games. And with FanDuel, you've got a shot to win. That's right. The promo code is FanDuel.com/JGM. I always tell you guys about FanDuel.com/JGM. In order to get started, FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And, of course, FanDuel is my official sportsbook app. And what's great about these SGPs is they give you the opportunity to win big. And that's really what you want to do, right? You want to win big when it comes to FanDuel and when it comes to the NBA playoffs and everything else with the no-sweat same-game parlays. So, again, that's FanDuel.com/JGM. 21 and over in present and Tennessee. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issue is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
player or a couple of players that JC reminds you of traits-wise?
The ones that block their man is the best answer I could give you.
Yeah, I don't love comparing at this point. We'll let JC be him, and we'll hopefully compare other people to him.
Oh, bull crap. That was last night, Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan. And let me tell you something. There is no way. I was floored last night. You know, if you play that cut, you hear Nick Suss ask the question about, so are there some players that are kind of similar here that have similar traits to JC? And there's kind of like a silence, and then Rand Carthon's like, the ones that block their mans? Ha, 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 ha. I'm going to start calling that, by the way, his Santa laugh. He does that all the time, where, like, he answers a question. You know, like I asked him one time about how do you evaluate a kicker? And he was like, I have no idea how Craig Ackerman does that. Ha, 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 ha. And it's like it's got like a little Santa to it. And so I'm going to call that the Santa laugh. And then, Brian Callahan's like, yeah, I don't really do comps. I don't really. So you mean to tell me that you guys are risking your career on a player you don't have a comp for? And this is after Brian Callahan 2 weeks ago got up there and was like, my dad knows so much about offensive linemen that when he sits down with the scouts, he makes comps, and these guys are like, we don't even know these players he's talking about because they were so long ago because my dad's got so much experience. So you can't be honest with us and say, hey, we looked at the tape and we talked about it, and we think that there's some Trent Williams there. We think there's some Penei Sewell there. We think that there's some Tyron Smith there. We think there's some. You can't just tell us that. Like it has to be a big freaking secret. And let me say this. Being compared to really good players is something that might actually be beneficial to the player. And I could talk about my own experience when it comes to this. Because when I was at Louisville and I was a senior, I had a lot of anxiety about what was next with my career. I'm 21 years old at the time, 22, I guess, I don't know. And I'm nervous about, what am I going to do? And I'm about to graduate, and like the idea of everything else, like it's a lot. And at Louisville, the sport administration program is very well recognized. And one of the heads of it, Dr. Hums, she's kind of, when we talk about the gurus, she's one of the gurus. And I sat down and had a meeting with Dr. Hums, and I was talking to her about kind of what I wanted to do and where I saw my career going and what I had done and, just picking her brains. And she looked at me in her office, and she goes, you remind me of a student I had at UMass back in the day, Wendy Nix. And this was when Wendy Nix was all over TV. And I was sitting there in her office, and I remember this like it was yesterday, and I was like, you mean the Wendy Nix on SportsCenter? That Wendy Nix? She's like, yeah. I was like, really? Me? And that was a big confidence boost for me. And I think about when I met Scott Masteller, who, again, he's kind of like a guru, in sports radio. I was in Louisville, and this was 2014, and he was the guy that discovered Colin Cowherd, and he was like, yeah, he's like, you remind me of Colin Cowherd. And I was like, what? Really? And I can't tell you how excited that made me. So if those guys are up there and they're saying, yeah, he reminds us of Tyron Smith, or he reminds us of, that's actually a good thing. That'd get the fans excited, and I think that would give him the confidence that, hey, these guys see me the way they see Trent Williams, who's a gold jacket guy. I mean, it's not like I didn't think to myself, oh, well, Dr. Hums thinks I'm Wendy Nix, so I don't have to work hard. So, again, I was floored that they're like, oh, we don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Really? Let's go to Sean, who's up next here on our program. Has been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Sean.
Hello, Jared. I got a few things for you. First of all, I'd like to use this analogy that the Titans fans are like Charlie Brown, and the Titans front office is like Lucy. And every time the Titans get their hopes up, what happens? Yes, they just dash their hopes. Listen, you made a comment earlier on about Bill Callahan being a good coach. Well, I got to disagree with you for the most part. He might be a good offensive line coach, but we know his head coaching tenure in the NFL was horrible. I mean, this guy is stuck in his ways, and if he's making a decision on who the first draft pick should be, the Titans got serious problems. Because if you look back, remember when Callahan, I believe, coached the Raiders in the Super Bowl against Chucky, he couldn't even adapt to be able to thwart Chucky's plays, and he knew most of them. It was a debacle, one of the worst defeats in Super Bowl history. This guy, I don't know why he's making decisions, so I got to disagree with you. I think he's not a good coach. The last thing is, Jared, ironically, the Raiders took Brock Bowers. I'm going to tell you right now, the last 3 Super Bowl winners have had key tight ends play roles from Gronk to Kelsey to the guy from San Francisco. They made the Super Bowl. The tight end is that safety player that every quarterback can rely on. Will Levis needs him. They should have taken Brock Bowers, but then again, this is the Titans. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you for your call. I agree with you as far as the Bill Callahan thing is concerned. I mean, and that was my point, which is I like Bill Callahan evaluating prospects and giving it the thumbs up and the thumbs down. I don't like the idea that, Bill Callahan likes him, so we have to take him. And that was the narrative the Titans were spinning out there. I would have taken Bowers with the 7th pick. Like, I was going to tell you. And this is one of those ones where clearly they don't see it the same way. And again, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to get it all right. They're not going to get it all right. Like, it's just, but, oof. That's a toughie there. All right, more of your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. By the way, we will be giving away a pair of tickets for Sunday's game number 4. That's right. We will be giving them away later today. We're going to do another code word. Not going to tell you what it is yet. We'll tell you it at some point. We'll give them away at some point. Baseball. Tune into 93.3 Classic Hits tonight as the Sounds take on the Louisville Bats. 6:15 and Sounds Baseball presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. And then Vandy Baseball's on 94.9 The Fan. Mississippi State with pregame at 5:45, first pitch at 6. And Vandy Baseball is brought to you by Smoky Mountain Tops. Your countertop experts. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. So I do have some info here. We will be giving away Game 4, that's Sunday, Game 4 tickets later today on the program. And I'm going to tell you how you can win those when it is time for you to win those. Do not call now, but I will tell you when, give you the code word now, and then when I tell you to call Ian with the code word, then you've got a shot. But first, let me tell you that this Sunday, before the game, join the Preds playoff excitement with 102.5 The Game at Hank's Bar. Guess Hank Williams Jr. has a bar. We'll be there. Your ultimate pre- and post-game destination located downtown right here, 419 Broadway. You'll have Chase and Adam Vingan from 11 to 1 and a special edition of Stillman & Company at 1 o'clock. So we'll be on from 1 to 3 ahead of the pregame show for game number 4. So cheer on the Preds and the big screens. Enjoy the cocktails, mouth-watering dishes, unbelievable vibes just minutes away from the arena at Hank's Bar this Sunday. Again, special edition of Stillman & Company at 1 o'clock. And since we'll be at Hank's Bar, Ian, I think that Hank will be our code word that we will give in when it is time. Plus, starting to like the name Hank just a little bit. So I'm all for that.
I wonder why.
Just starting to cheer up to the name Hank. So the code word is Hank for that. All right, to your phone, 615-737-1025. I do want to read this one text message first. Somebody texted in and said, NFL Combine prospects had J.C. Latham rated at 6.71, higher than Alt and higher than Olu Fashanu. He was the highest rated offensive lineman, says this texter. I don't know how that's possible. J.C. Latham didn't do any testing at the Combine, and J.C. Latham didn't do any testing at his pro day. So how can he be scored higher than Alt or Olu Fashanu? Texter says, he will be 10 times better than Dillard. Wow, that's a high bar. Why would you waste a year teaching him right tackle when you want him to be a left tackle? Because I want him to have success. And the way for him to have success is for him to play the position that he knows the first year, learn how the league works, and then flip to left tackle. Said that Bill Callahan said they would move him back if he was a disaster, which I doubt he will be. This dude's a monster. I know everybody thinks he's going to be a Hall of Famer because your team picked him. All right, let's go back to your phones. Mark has been waiting patiently on J.C. Latham. Thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Jared. Yeah, man, what world are we living in right now? I mean, seriously, what the hell? Like, I hate to take one play and make it a player's personality, but seriously, do you remember J.C. Latham's last play as in Alabama?
Was that the Mill Road draw?
Yeah, 4th and goal, ball on the 4, and Michigan's backup DN, not even the starter, put him 5 yards in the backfield, threw him onto Joe Milton, and effectively ended their season on the biggest play of his entire college career. And this is the cat that we expect to hold it down on the left side? I mean, what world are we in? Did we seriously just pass on Adunze, Bowers? I mean, where's our common sense GMing at? I mean, at least we have the Falcons doing what they did, so the Titans won't get as publicly scrutinized, but I think it was just as bad.
Dude, no one gives a rat's ass about the Titans pick. Thank you. No one cares about the Titans outside of Nashville, and nobody cares about offensive linemen, especially when a team that is as nondescript as the Titans takes an offensive lineman. I'm not going to throw Latham under the bus for that one play. I will say this. I laughed my tush off this morning. The Titans posted on Instagram, like all these the highlights of J.C. Latham, like, this is the guy that we took. And on the first cut that they put on Instagram was a blatant hold where he's just grabbing the side of the jersey. And I'm like, oh, great. And then yesterday the coach was like, yeah, I don't care about the penalties, which we'll see when it's 2nd and 18 if you feel the same way. Let's go to Dre, who's up next here on the program. Has been waiting patiently. What's up, Dre?
Yeah, Jared, I just called to check your temperature, man. See, if you had kind of settled down a little bit. Why do you hate every single thing the Titans do so much?
Because
I mean,
everything they do is so stupid.
What is stupid about picking arguably the best tackle in the league? What's messed up about that?
Arguably by who? Nobody was arguing this yesterday before they picked him.
I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I was programmed to think, listening to the pundits, listening to everybody, I was just I had all fever. Secondly, when he got snatched up by the Chargers, I really wanted to go nuclear at that point and just trade and get as many picks as we could and just fire, just guns a-blazing throughout the draft. We didn't do that. But researching this kid says that this kid is the best.
See, Trey, what you're saying is exactly what you're saying is exactly what I know is going to happen. And I know that people are going to get mad at me. Thank you, Trey. I know people are going to get mad at me because you hated the pick. And then you're like, I did some research and I read some things here that make me think this is the great pick that we need. It's just like the Kentucky basketball fans that went nuclear when they hired Mark Pope out of BYU with 0 NCAA tournament wins to replace John Calipari. And then all of a sudden, we read some articles about Mark Pope and we think that he might be the great coach for UK. Go Cats, baby! Like, that's what you're doing. That's what fans do. It's like I was listening to Boston radio the other day. They were talking about if they draft J.J. McCarthy at 3. They said if they draft J.J. McCarthy at 3, and then Tom Brady does a video saying, I love this pick, I love J.J., will the Patriot fans be all in? And the radio hosts were like, yes, they will be. That's what I'm talking about. It's like you can't think the guy was the 14th best player in this draft yesterday, then your team picks him at 7 and say, it was a good pick. No, that's the problem. And I'm not changing. Like, this is how I felt when they picked him, and this is how I feel about it now. And it's not changing because I want it to change. Let's go to DeJuan, who's up next here on JC Latham. Thank you for calling. What's up, DeJuan?
What's up, man? I mean, most of your fans and your viewers don't understand or know football like the Dre. I love that take, the guy that just called in. But the bozo that said that, Joe Walsh asked for a trade. Really? To block for Justin Herbert, a future Hall of Famer in the biggest market? He was surprised because the Chargers don't have a receiver to throw to, and he got picked and like, wow, y'all don't have a receiver. Okay. I'll go to the biggest market in America. And of course,
maybe, but
like
DeJuan, I'm telling you that Joe Alt wanted to be here.
I get
not that it matters, not that he gets to pick where he goes, but this is where he wanted to be.
I'm talking about for brand purposes.
Joe Alt didn't care about that. You heard the Joe Alt interview, DeJuan. He don't care about that.
Yeah, because he probably never thought in a million years that the Chargers would take a tackle and they don't have a receiver. That's football 101. And they got a left tackle Pro Bowler, whom I got that information from you. So you're probably surprised they took the tackle just as he was.
I was surprised.
My next point is...
But I think I was more disappointed than he was.
My next point is, I don't want the Titans to ever draft a tackle or a guard or a center. It's the boring pick, right? But Joe Alt's off the board, so we don't know if there was any trade partners. I mean, all these fans just thinking, we should have traded back. Traded back with who? 2 tackles went off the board. The only argument you can make is the tight end, but it still doesn't solve our blocking problem. Yeah, that's the only argument you can say is the tight end. So
I think the argument for me, DeJuan, thank you for your call. I think the argument, no, you made 2. I think that the argument for me is, was he the best player on the board? You're picking at 7 in a draft with elite players. Was he the best player on the board? Bill Belichick's board had Rome Odunze 6th, had Brock Bowers 7th. Was Bill's board that much different than your board? And look, Bill sucks at drafting, so I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Belichick, he's so smart. But should your board be that different? Dave's up next. Quickly, thank you for calling. Go ahead, Dave.
Jared, I feel 100% the same way you did. I think I was more disappointed than you were You do not pass on elite players. I was hoping for Bowers, Bashnu, Dunze, one of those. You have to pick one of those to have an elite player. Just look at your teams, Kansas City. You got to have an elite player. These picks, I tell you, I feel the same way you do. I totally agree. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Dave. Well, I'm glad at least somebody does. I do feel like I've been – I mean, like, here's what sucks, right? Like, J.C. Latham just got drafted, and I hope it works out. I hope he's Trent Williams. But I'm just so down about it. Like, I'm just so down, and there's no way for me, without lying to you, to tell you any different. But Corey Curtis will join us from News 2 next. We'll see what he thinks. We'll see if he likes the pick. My gut tells me he does, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll do that next. Let's talk about the Tennessee Men's Clinic. That's right. Fellas, you've put this off for way too long. It is time to get it done and move forward with your sex life. And the Tennessee Men's Clinic is the leader in bedroom confidence. See, the reality is that pills often quit working and guys start making excuses for why they're not coming to bed. Did you know that studies show that men will be more irritable and argumentative before bed just to avoid failing at intimacy? And yes, I know guys hate going to the doctor, but the Tennessee Men's Clinic was created in 2014 to take care of guys just like you. That's right. For a decade, the urologists and providers at the Tennessee Men's Clinic have helped guys with ED and weight loss, and they now even offer aesthetic enhancements and cosmetic procedures. Their ED and weight loss treatments truly change lives, and with no surgery, they are seeing success rates as high as 90%. They specialize in seeing guys who think they're out of luck regain hope that they can be successful in the bedroom and beyond. They even offer same or next day appointments. So it's time to start feeling amazing to hit your goals. Go to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090. Or go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to book an appointment today. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Bill
Here you go. Here's
does
Goodell.
clean
Here's
it up.
Goodell.
In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select J.C. Latham.
Oh, no! No! God!
You know what? The liquid in Jared's glass.
Man.
Hey, do you believe
I'm sweating.
Hey, Jared, do you
And now it's
believe?
crown.
Do you believe in Bill Callahan? Do you believe in Bill Callahan?
1,000.
Do you or do you not? But this is a question. This is a serious question. Do you believe in Bill Callahan? Jared?
That was the draft show last night. Corey Curtis, News 2, joins us on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Corey Curtis, your reaction to the Titans pick last night?
I thought once the other two were off the board, it was very, very predictable. And I'm surprised, not that you were upset about it, but that you were that surprised about it.
The other two?
When you saw Neighbors and Alt go off the board,
Oh, okay.
once those two guys went off the board, I'm like, well, they're picking Latham. I mean, that was just a matter of fact to me. I think we talked last week, and I said I don't want a right tackle at number 7. Apparently, he's going to be a left tackle. And in 2 years, we're going to know if they were smart or if they were dumb.
How much do you believe in the Titans? I.e., how much benefit of the doubt do you give the Titans when they say, well, we had him ranked higher than Fashanu, or we think that he can play left tackle, or we know that he is an elite prospect over a Bowers or an Odunze?
Mm-hmm. Listen, I think it goes the same for every team in that you have a scouting staff and you have a scouting department with heads, and you have to trust them. And I'm saying you as an organization, not me and you. You have to trust them to do their jobs and to be good at their jobs. And if they're not good at their jobs, they will be fired.
That's not true.
No, John Robinson got fired. I mean, he had horrible back-to-back
This is his scouting
classes.
staff.
Well, yes. I'm saying the man ultimately making the pick loses his job.
Yeah.
All right? Yes. It's up to the next one who he wants on his scouting staff. He can fire everybody if he wants. So that's what it comes down to me, that each one of these teams has a staff, and I guess as a fan you have to hope that they know what they're doing, and they put a lot of time into this, and they seemed resolute that they knew this outcome could very well be the case, and they were happy with it when it. They said before the draft that they had a good feeling for how things were going to go, and they said that there was no trade basically that was going to get them off this pick with him. So he's a guy that they thought enough of that they didn't want to lose, and now they're going to get a chance to prove themselves right or wrong. And so, I mean, I don't pretend to be smarter than them. Okay, I mean, there are times I'd like to, but we'll wait and we'll see. I mean, you know me. I thought Clowney and Brady were taking the Titans to the Super Bowl. I mean, we all have good takes and we all have bad takes, and this is the take of record for NFL GMs.
So it sounds to me like you do give them a lot of benefit of the doubt.
I give every team, virtually every team, a lot of the benefit of the doubt in the draft.
Corey!
Because they have put in way more time than I have on these players.
You give the Jets the benefit of the doubt to make right decisions?
I said a lot of teams. There are teams that do not deserve the benefit of the doubt whatsoever, okay? Yes, there are teams that do not deserve it. Like the Bears generally drafting a quarterback do not deserve the benefit of the doubt, okay?
So what do you think of Latham?
What do I think of Latham? I think he's massive. I mean, I think he's huge. He's got, great wingspan, big hands, ultra powerful, was a very good football player on a very good team. He's played at the highest level, each step of the way. So I think, there's a lot of good traits. But, I heard you earlier, and you're not wrong, you don't pick in the top 10 every year. And so you want to wind up with an elite player. And, the question is did you take a good player at 7 who's going to make you better and pass up on an elite player who could go to the Pro Bowl every year?
And
we'll find out.
Oh, you got to give me the I think they did or I think they didn't.
Okay. Well, look, I know everybody loves Brock Bowers because he played in the SEC and his numbers were crazy.
J.C. Latham played in the SEC.
Well, look, okay, but this is what I'm going at. What's the track record for Alabama offensive linemen in the NFL?
Terrible.
It's terrible, yeah. Which tells you that Saban did an awesome job with those guys there and maxed them out at Alabama. Now, I think physically this guy's a little bit different, so we'll see. And then what do we also know about top 10 tight ends in the draft?
Yeah, but when you listen to like the Bill Polians,
I understand, but
those guys
now
say he's not a tight
right
end. They say he's like a special receiver, like matchup nightmare, not one of those kind of players.
Well, we're going to find out. Look, I like him, and that's what I'm saying. You took a chance on passing on him. TD, said they weren't that high on Roma Dunze, so apparently he was never really in the conversation. I think what we haven't talked about here is one of the first things Rand said last night is they had a lot of calls for that pick. They had a lot of calls. So, did they have the opportunity to trade down and still get J.C. Latham? That's what I want to know.
What do you think about the idea of trying to flip him to left tackle and the fact that the Titans even said, well, if it doesn't work, we'll flip him back to right tackle last night?
Well, I mean, I liked that right out of the chute, Rand said he's going to play left tackle. I liked that he was definitive and he was resolute about it. And I don't think they should have backed off of that. I think that was a mistake to say, well, if he's not, it's reality if he's not comfortable. But at that point, you've just got to be completely in his back and have his back and say, we have no doubt he's going to succeed at left tackle. That's why we drafted him number 7 overall. And when you say, well, we can always move him to right, which I said, which is true, that means you're just leaving room for him not to succeed. I don't think it's a big issue, for him right or left. I don't think it's going to be. I know there are people who think it will be. He's played left tackle before. He's an athlete. At 6'5", 340 pounds. And if he can't, then you know what? Maybe he could play guard with Skoronski, and we'll have 2 times.
So that's the worst part about this is that, like, the draft gurus, and, like, I'm not going to say, okay, well, Dane Brugler knows more than the people that make millions of dollars to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that. But, like, every single one of them going into the draft was like, Latham's a massive right tackle who may fit better at guard. And I hear that G word at 7, and it scares the crap out of me.
But why do they say that? Because he's got superior length.
Well, I think they say it because, and it's the same reason why Saban's guys fail in the NFL. I think it's because he gets them too fat. I think Saban gets these boys so big in the SEC.
He's not fat, though. He's huge. He's not fat.
He's big. Like, he's not built like Taylor Lewan.
No. Taylor's an athlete.
Right, that's my point, is that's the prototypical left tackle.
Yeah. But, yes, he's huge. And one guy I remember is Brad Hopkins. And I'm sure Brad could talk about this with you guys. He got up to, like, 330 pounds at the biggest point in his career. But as his career went on, he got leaner and leaner and leaner. And I doubt he was even 300 pounds when he finished. And it'll be interesting to see if Latham wants to carry that much weight at the next level. He looks to me like he carries it pretty easily. He doesn't look like Andre Smith and some of these other guys they had, were a little pudgy.
Another Saban guy, he got too fat. Chance Warmack was a Saban guy, he got too fat.
Yeah, and Chance Warmack, I remember he was on the coach's show, and I was afraid he was going to break the director's chair because he's so big.
So when I first started here, I obviously wasn't doing afternoons, but Floyd was, and they were out at Titans training camp, and Warmack went on the show, and it was before they went on, and before they put the headset on, Floyd looks at him and goes, "How much you weigh?" And I think he was like, I'm like 340 or something like that at that point. Floyd was like, okay, and put the headset on, and I just kind of laughed, like, again, like those things matter to those kind of guys, and at least it's not Aaron Brewer. What is your expectation for tonight?
I expect defense. I expect either a linebacker or a defensive, tackle or edge. That's what I would expect. But there are some talented receivers still on the board. And, if there's like Troy Franklin's a burner. The kid, Donnie Mitchell from Texas is still on the board, right?
Yep, he's a baddie too. He's a bad boy.
Yeah, and if they're there, that might be too much for them to pass up on. And so we will see. I know there's a lot of people who like Junior Colson. I like Junior Colson. I just think 38 is awful high for a middle linebacker. Like I said, I think you can find one in the fourth. So we'll wait and see on that. But I expect it to be defense unless just too good looking of a wide receiver is out there.
Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's your hot take this week?
I don't have one. I don't.
Hey, at least you're honest.
Yes. No, I didn't even think about it. I mean, because all I was thinking about was, how much of a heart attack is Jared going to have during this segment? How much am I going to have to talk him off the ledge?
I really thought there was a chance I was going to be happy last night with the pick.
Well, okay, let me, and we'll use my hot take time to ask this. What did you want them to do at 7 after all the neighbors went off the board?
Bowers.
You wanted Bowers? Okay.
I had a former NFL head coach text me when the Titans were on the clock, and it was just in all caps, take the tight end from Georgia. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who share that, and I get it. I mean, he put up numbers, and that's one of the things I like about him more than the other top 10 tight ends that have come out is he's got more proof of performance. Most college tight ends just don't get that many targets, and he led his team in receiving every year. And like you said, you could move him all over the field. So it's going to be fun because the Raiders got him right.
Yep.
If the Raiders ever get a quarterback, we'll see if they can do something with him.
Corey Curtis, News 2, as always, on our program on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Corey, great stuff. Appreciate you as always.
I appreciate it, man. Talk to you later.
Yep, more of your phones at 615-737-1025 to come. Again, that's 615-737-1025. And Corey did bring up the whole Nick Saban thing. I do have a thought because the numbers are not pretty for Nick Saban's first-round Alabama offensive lineman. And I do think the sample is large enough to make it more than just a simple helmet scout. So we'll get to that and your phones. Fireball whiskey goes down so smooth and it tastes so great, there's no better way to ignite the night than to do it with ice-cold Fireball cinnamon whiskey. That's right. If you were like me last night and you needed to drown your sorrows, Fireball whiskey may have been the go-to. Maybe I should have at Twin Peaks last night. But today is a new day. More players will be taking playoff hockey to celebrate. That's Fireball whiskey. Ignite the night. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy Fireball cinnamon whiskey.
we got a comfort level with the player and the athlete and what he's capable of, and so having him go to left and start out there, and look, if he doesn't feel comfortable there, it doesn't look right and look natural, move him back to right. And like I said the other day, you need tackles, period. So it doesn't really affect us one way or the other which tackle is which tackle he plays. So he's just a really strong, powerful, big, athletic human. There's not a lot of guys that look like him on earth, so we like that.
You know, if he fails, then we'll just move him over to the other position. I mean, there's no issue there. No, that would mean that he's a bust. And the fact that we're already making plans for that is not a good sign. Now, speaking of busts, I am not somebody who does what's called helmet scouting. For instance, I don't think Drake May has anything to do with Sam Howell. I don't think Caleb Williams has anything to do with Carson Palmer or Matt Leinart. But I do think that there is a large enough sample size to say, okay, why are Nick Saban's first-round offensive linemen out of Alabama so terrible in the NFL? And I went through the numbers this morning. There are 9, because J.C. Latham would be 10, 9 offensive linemen drafted by NFL teams in the first round out of Alabama since Nick Saban became the coach. Andre Smith in 2009, James Carpenter in 2011, Chance Warmack in 2013, DJ Fluker, Ryan Kelly, Jonah Williams, Jedrick Wills, Alex Leatherwood, Evan Neal, and J.C. Latham. And of this group, and we'll take Latham out of this now, so there's 9, Latham is 10. Out of this group, what's wild to me is one of them, Ryan Kelly, the center in Indianapolis, has made a Pro Bowl. One person has made a Pro Bowl. And that is absolutely wild to me. So I'm thinking, okay, why is that the case? How many of these guys are busts? Chance Warmack was clearly a bust. Alex Leatherwood, clearly a bust. It looks like Evan Neal is going to be moved from tackle to guard. He was the 7th pick 2 years ago. It looks like he's going to be a bust. And again, Jonah Williams is still in his NFL career. He hasn't made a Pro Bowl. They moved him to right tackle. Cincinnati didn't re-sign him. Only 2 of these guys, Andre Smith and Ryan Kelly, have signed extensions. And again, the jury's out on Jedrick Wills. It looks like Wills is going to make it. So here's my theory when it comes to Saban. I think he gets these linemen too fat. And I was talking to Corey Curtis about this, and Corey was like, well, Latham's not fat, and he's like 350 pounds. I think what Saban does, and this works in college football, is I think Saban just goes out and gets the biggest boys and sticks them on the line and says, push, which is fine. Because in college football, even in the SEC, how many just stud athlete, Javon Curse type players are you going to play? And the answer for me is not many. You might play one. Like in any given year, LSU might have 1 or 2. In the NFL, everybody is that way. So in the SEC, Saban, and I think Kirby Smart's doing something similar at Georgia, Saban just gets the biggest and fattest and just push them and just go. In the NFL, you have to move your feet. And that's why these guys fail. And so I'm concerned about that with Latham. And I'm concerned about that when they say he may have to move into guard because he's so big. And then not only is he not going to move into guard here, they're going to try to flip him to another position. And that, again, I'm like, oh, whoa. Because, again, at this point, I think the sample size is big enough. And of these tackles, I mean, these guys have been awful for the most part. And Chance Warmack, I mean, he was a guard, and you took him at 10, and we know how that worked out. But I'm not going to blame, J.C. Latham for Chance Warmack. I just think that there is a common theme of why the Saban offensive linemen in the first round have stunk so bad in the NFL. Let's go to your phones on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, 615-737-1025. Ben is up next here on our program. Thank you for calling and waiting. Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, man, I was wanting to know, do you think Joe Milton will get drafted in the second round? Or do you think he'll fall down to like the 4th round and get picked up by just as like a 4th string or practice squad quarterback?
I
And
hate
then
to
what
say
about-
this to you, Ben. I couldn't give a rat's ass about Joe Milton, and I don't think he'll get drafted until Saturday.
That's what I was thinking was Saturday. Well, and what about the I can't remember his name, but that running back out of Michigan? He did pretty damn well in the title game and then playoffs.
Corum. Yeah, I don't care about him either. Thank you for your call, Ben. Let's go to Chris, Titans and Truth, who's up next here on the program. Chris, the floor is yours, my friend.
Jared, first of all, I got to tell you, I called in with Callahan, Willie, and D-Mate. My friend, I stuck up for you.
I heard it. I appreciate it.
I said, shame on D-Mate and Chris Sanders for laughing at your pain, because you know what? I felt that exact same pain twice with all going off the board and then J.C. Latham. And I'm just thinking in my mind, I hated this pick too. And the reason why is because, again, he's a road grader. Good run blocker, struggles with pass blocking. And if I remember correctly, aren't they trying to pass the ball more? You need a guy that can pass block better than one block. I can work with that. And so I don't like the pick. I'm not saying I don't like the player. I just don't like him being picked at 7. And at this point, he better, they're trusting Bill Callahan. He better be an all-pro year 1. He better be at least a Pro Bowler. And like you said, with Alabama offensive linemen, it ain't working out. It hasn't worked out too well. And I think Rand and Brian Callahan let Bill Callahan make the pick, and they're trying to convince. I think they were trying to convince themselves, oh, this is a good pick. We're going to play him at left. Don't double back and say, well, we'll put him at right if it doesn't work. You say stay at left, and you stay with it. So now,
I can't believe they said that, by the way, last night. I can't believe they said, if it doesn't work, we'll move him back to right. What? If it doesn't work, you guys need to go get you guys need to go get other jobs if it doesn't work.
Going left to right is not an easy transition. If they work for some, it doesn't work for everybody.
Well, Chris, I hear you. I appreciate your call. I mean, I can't believe that they said it. It's like it's one thing to think it. Like the Giants are probably going to move Evan Neal to guard. But it's not like when they drafted him, they were like, yeah, and if this guy sucks, we're going to move him to guard just in hopes that he can play in the NFL. More of your phones at 615-737-1025. Speaking of fathers, my dad thinks I'm too hard on the Titans. He thinks I'm too hard on them. But then there was something that I heard today. Of all the things that could depress me about the Titans, this is the one that freaking hurts. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Let me tell all the fine folks out there that tomorrow, tune in as the Nashville Cats take on the Minnesota Myth at Municipal Auditorium. Pre-game at 7 o'clock, kickoff at 7:30. Coverage available on 102.5 The Game's apps. And Cats football on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, presented by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. And I do hear that there will be a special appearance by Blanco Brown to kick off the revitalization, the rebirth of the Cats. So be excited about that. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He's going to be going against some athletic edge rushers.
He plays
but
a lot.
physically, can he do it?
Oh, God!
What happened? What?
Rand Carthon said if J.C. Latham doesn't pan out at left tackle, we have guys on our roster we're comfortable with at left tackle.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, God.
Unless it's Peter Skoronski.
Oh, God, I hate this freaking team. The best left tackle they have is their left guard. Their best right tackle is going to be their left tackle. They're all idiots. Oh, my God.
Jared? Jared?
Thank you. Thank you. That was last night on the draft show. Maybe that was a little over the top, Ian. That might have been
maybe
a little. That might have been a little over the top. So this morning, my puppy last night spent the night with my parents. I go over this morning to pick my puppy up, and I said to my dad, I go, you listened to the draft show last night? He goes, oh, I listened to it. And I said, I really thought I wasn't going to have a meltdown. And then they picked, J.C. Latham, and I had a meltdown. My dad goes, I laughed my ass off. Oh, my God. And then he said, but you are too hard on the Titans. He said, you're too hard on them. I said, too hard? You saw the draft last year. I went crazy last year, and everybody was like, oh, no, Jared, you don't get it. Vrabel, he knows. And then all of it. Remember when everybody told me that guard, center, guard was more important than tackle? Wait, what happened to that, Ian?
I don't know.
Guard, center, guard, that was more important than tackle last year. Now tackle, it's like, with this guy, he's more important than.
Well, they got a center.
Yeah. Well, what about the other
and
guard?
one guard.
We don't even know if he's good. What about the other guard?
Is Brunskill back for sure?
I mean, he's on the team, but
so he's okay.
So anywho, I listened to that. I'm like, maybe I was a little too hard on the Titans last night. The Titans, they listen to their dads to decide who to pick. So maybe I should listen to my dad and say, well, a little too hard on it, whatever. And then I was listening to Rick Spielman, the former GM of the Vikings, and they were doing their first round breakdown last night on CBS. And listen to the team that he thinks got it right. And kind of the thought process behind how they got it right. And this should depress you.
Left to the offensive line. I'm going to go through the offensive linemen that were drafted and just tell me one or two that you really like to fit. Joe Alt to the Chargers. Where is he going to play? J.C. Latham to the Titans. Again, it feels like if you swap those two players with those teams, that makes a little more sense. Olu Positional to the Jets feels like a grand slam. Tully Fuaga went to the Saints. It makes sense there with Ryan Ramczyk. Amarius Mims, 18 to the Bengals. I'd heard some murmurs of that potentially happening. And Troy Fautanu, my guy, big Troy Polamalu fan growing up, to the Steelers. Any one of those stick out to you as potentially special?
Yeah, I love the Troy pick.
Oh, do you?
To the Steelers,
good.
Yeah. No, I thought Fashanu was a great selection for the Jets. Everybody thought they were going to push all in and maybe go Brock Bowers, but they solved their left tackle issue for years to come, in my opinion. I think Smith is just maybe a plug-in guy. He hasn't been healthy for 17 games over the last 3 or 4 years. They have to be able to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. And I think if something does happen with Tyron Smith, if he does get hurt, they got to plug and play left tackle right away.
Oh, my God. The Jets. They got it right. The Jets acquired a right tackle, Morgan Moses, by swapping spots in the 4th round with the Ravens. That's a shrewd move. The Jets signed Tyron Smith to a 1-year incentive-laden deal. Remember, we said on the show the Friday that Tyron Smith signed, I said, fine, they'll do 1 year, $7 million, and then he with incentives that can make him whole. I think he signed for 6.5 with incentives that can get up to like 20. And then they drafted Fashanu. And so Fashanu has no pressure to play right away because Tyron Smith's going to start at left tackle and Morgan Moses is going to start at right tackle. And so they can work with Fashanu, and Fashanu will get to play in the preseason games because, again, he's not a starting tackle. And then in Game 6, when Tyron Smith goes out for the year, they're going to put Fashanu in, and he's going to have all this practice and all this time sitting and everything. Oh, my God, the Jets! They got it right! The Jets! And here you are like, well, we think he's going to play left tackle, but if he doesn't play left tackle, then we'll put him back at right tackle. Then what the hell are you going to do at left tackle? Oh, we've got Nicholas Petit-Frere. He can play left tackle. Jalen Duncan. Oh, God. Oh, the Jets. The Jets are getting it right, and you're screwing it up. And as a Titan fan, that hurts. That hurts. Oh, it hurts. So I told you. Do you hear things like that? And you're like, oh, my God. The freaking Jets. The freaking Jets have it figured out, and you don't. Let's go to Robert, who's up next here on our program, 615-737-1025. On a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Robert, go ahead.
Man, Jared, I'll tell you what, we are a lucky city of Nashville to have a radio talk show host like you that is smarter than the smartest and the best offensive line coach in the NFL. I mean, dude, you're just being totally misused and underused by being on this radio station. I mean,
hey, man, I was right about last year, wasn't I?
In charge of the whole thing. I mean, because you would know more than Bill Callahan.
Well,
I mean, who the hell
here's
is Bill
the problem.
Callahan?
Here's the problem with the Bill Callahan thing. Bill Callahan's not the GM. Bill Callahan's not the coach. So when Bill Callahan said, oh, I love this guy, that doesn't mean that he's better than Brock Bowers. And Bill Callahan's job is not to evaluate Brock Bowers or Rome Odunze or these other players that everybody had ahead of J.C. Latham.
It doesn't matter that we needed a left tackle then. So you say
he's not a left tackle. He's a right tackle.
We just shouldn't have drafted a tackle at all. We should have drafted a tight end because, I mean, that'll keep Will Levis from getting killed. Because, I mean, dude, you were, like I said, man, you were so much smarter than any of these NFL coaches. I mean, hell, I don't understand how you're not Amy Adams Strong. Does she know who you are?
I mean, let me say this.
Call you. I mean, come
Amy
on.
absolutely
I mean,
knows who I am.
If Bill Callahan
But
likes him and you don't, I'm all for it. He must suck.
Here's the thing, Robert, and I appreciate your call. It's fun to do that. I was right last year. You guys said the same thing last year. I trust Mike Vrabel more than you. And who was right? Who was right about the freaking guard with the 11th pick? I was. I trust them more than you. They know more than you. Yeah, you say that. And then all of a sudden, week 8, you're like, man, Jared was right about a lot of this stuff. And again, if Bill Callahan's the smartest guy who ever lived in the history of football, which he's not, I mean, he was not a good head coach. I mean, like, again, if you guys want Bill Callahan to make every decision for the team, then promote him to head coach. But he was a bad head coach. He was bad with the Raiders, although he was good that first year, and he was bad at Nebraska, 14-17 in conference in his tenure. But if you want Bill Callahan to make every decision, then promote him to head coach. But you won't do that. And see, that's the thing. Like somebody texted in and was like, I'll take Bill Callahan's board over Bill Belichick. Ha, ha, ha. Because, again, Belichick had Latham at either 13 or 14. I think it was 14. And he had Odunze at 6 and Bowers at 7. And it's like, well, Bill Belichick, what the hell's he know? He stunk it up. Bill Callahan is the line coach. He is not the GM. He is not the head coach. He is not a scout. He is not the director of college scouting. He is not the director of player personnel. He is not the president of football operations, which I don't even know what that guy does. He's not the analytics guy. He's not any of that. He's the line coach. And do I want the line coach's input on players when they select them? Yes. Am I going to make every decision for the football team based off of the line coach? No. No, you don't do that. That's why the GM makes more money. But this GM does not have original opinions. He just goes with the group. That's what happens. And then it's like, no, this isn't about me. In fact, he said the other day, he was like, yeah, I texted Anthony Robinson, and I said, I like this guy, but everybody else doesn't like him, so I guess maybe I'm wrong. Great. 615-737-1025. And let me say this. The Titans do listen to this show. Now, I'm not sure they do what we say, but the Titans do listen to this show, and even they probably at times, they'll never admit it, but even they're probably like, man, Jared was right. 615-737-1025. Chad Withrow up next. We move him up ahead an hour because we got the Preds going on tonight with an early start time. Hal will be at the desk at 5 o'clock, and we still have those tickets to give away, which we'll do later today in the program. Let's talk about Twice Daily. I love Twice Daily, and I love White Bison. White Bison is the Twice Daily local coffee shop. It's just I mean, if you've ever been in a White Bison, you're like, this place is fabulous. It really is. And they've got specialty coffee and so much more. So explore their selection of premium coffee blends, refreshing iced drinks, and food featuring fresh-made premium breakfast, lunch, and snack options. Download their app and join the White Bison Rewards program so you can place orders on the go anytime and get rewards and earn free coffee. Stop by White Bison and brighten your day with a sweet cinnamon beehive latte, an iced honey nut macchiato, or the vanilla rooibos tea latte. Find your perfect cup at White Bison, where it's finely crafted for you every day. White Bison and twice daily, fresh all day. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, Bridgestone Arena tonight. Predators game number 3 against the Vancouver Canucks. And because the puck drops at 6:30, the pregame's at 5:30, we're moving things around. Hal will join us in an hour right here from the desk leading in to Predators game day. So, Chad Withrow, kind enough to move up to 4 o'clock with us here on Draft Reaction Day plus Day 2, or I should say Day 2, Round 2, Round 3. Chad, I did not take the J.C. Latham pick very well. I said yesterday, I listened to the midday show, and Caroline asked the guys what the odds of me having a meltdown on the draft show last night was. They put it at minus 650, and I thought to myself driving in, those suckers, because there's no way the Titans can blow this between the possibility of Harrison, Neighbors, Alt, Bowers, or Odunze, and then they drafted J.C. Latham. Oh, gosh. But after this day, I'm done complaining about it, but today is today. So that was my reaction, your reaction to the Titans pick last night.
Well, first off, my first reaction to what you just said is you're not done complaining about it. You'll continue complaining about it. And I completely understand it. Look, the Titans have this thing where they love to draft guys who are positionless, I feel like. Boy, they're just a big, strong athlete, good football player, and that's what we want to draft. Well, how about drafting the position you need? Last year they drafted a guard who played tackle in college, but they knew he was going to be a guard. And he's a guard, and high in the first round. This year they need a left tackle badly. And they drafted a dude who could not play left tackle in college. The last time he played left tackle was in high school. To be an NFL left tackle is the plan. I just don't understand that part. J.C. Latham seems like a really good football player. He is a big, powerful, explosive offensive lineman. But, man, oh, man, what's wrong with just going and grabbing a left tackle who played left tackle really well at a high level in college instead of taking a right tackle to shift them to left tackle, and then, oh, by the way, if it doesn't work out at left tackle, we can move them inside. I just don't get that part of it for the Titans. And again, if you're someone who could not win the starting job at left tackle over a true freshman in Caden Proctor or over Vanderbilt transfer Tyler Steen the year before, I have a hard time believing that you're going to be a great bookend left tackle in the NFL, and that's what the Titans drafted J.C. Latham to be. So I'm just not buying it. I don't like the pick. He may be a good player, but I think with what was available there, they had a lot of better options.
So to that point, the reaction to that, and I heard it as soon. Here's what's hilarious, and I said this, and I just knew it. Titans fans hated the pick last night when it happened. I said that by 2 o'clock today, Titans fans will have changed their minds. They will have convinced themselves that it was a good pick because that's what all fans do. And that obviously has been what has happened. But the return on this is, well, Bill Callahan thinks he can play left tackle. Last night, when they made the pick, Trevor on the draft show was like, he can't play left tackle. Then when the Titans said he's going to play left tackle, Trevor changed his tune and was like, well, if Bill Callahan thinks he can play left tackle, and in fairness, Trevor did play for Bill Callahan at one point, but I think Bill Callahan's a great line coach. I think there's a reason why Bill Callahan's not a head coach and a reason why he's not the GM. And this just, oh, well, Bill Callahan said, that is starting to drive me crazy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, one of my pet peeves is when fans start to say, oh, well, what do you know? You're not sitting in their war room. You're not spending months looking at all these prospects the way NFL front offices are. Just trust them. They know what they're doing. Well, hey, look, there was an NFL front office who evaluated Isaiah Wilson and thought he was a first-round pick, right? I mean, these guys screw it up all the time. So, of course, we can have opinions on it, even though we're not paid full-time to evaluate talent and make picks the way NFL front offices are, like the Titans. Look, I love Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan knows a heck of a lot more about offensive line play than I'll ever know or even come close to. I'm with you on Bill Callahan is not a general manager. Bill Callahan, when working up close with someone, can mold them into being better players. And he is a great offensive line coach. I'm not denying that. And I think most Titans fans will come around today and say, well, if it's good enough for Bill Callahan, it's good enough for me. I just don't accept that. I don't accept it, Jared, because there are other guys there like Fashanu that could play the position, and they have a position. And you need that position so badly if you're going to be able to do anything on offense that it's just not worth taking a guy that you love as a player that wasn't good enough to play left tackle in college that now suddenly is going to be your franchise left tackle in the NFL. I don't like any part of it. I think fans are well within their right to criticize it and have their own opinions about it. And I do get tired of this idea that, oh, well, what do you know? You're not in their war room. You don't know what teams know about these guys. And I'm thinking, well, who cares? I've seen this organization screw it up a number of times. By the way, including last year with Peter Skoronski, who I'll still argue, even if he's a great offensive guard, they didn't need to go guard with that pick. And I feel the same way about drafting a right tackle last night. I think the Titans screwed it up again.
See, what's funny is, again, to your point about the whole what do you know? Well, I went crazy last year, and I was right. I went crazy on the Ravens pick, and I was right. I went crazy on Monty Rice, and I was right. It's at some point, it's like, man, why can't the Titans just do the normal thing? Like, why can't the Titans just draft Brock Bowers and say Brock Bowers is going to be our starting tight end? Good enough for me. Like, why can't they do that? They've got a left tackle playing left guard who they drafted 11th. They've got a right tackle playing left tackle who they drafted 7th. And then last night, and Chad, this pissed me off last night, was Brian Callahan at the podium after it was over being like, well, if he can't make the move to left tackle, then we'll just play him at right tackle. Brother, that is the 7th pick. If you draft him to play left tackle, he better go to the Pro Bowl at left tackle. There is no gray area here as far as I'm concerned with that. 'Cause I sat through that terrible season to watch you get this pick, and if it's, well, he can't play left tackle, let's move him back to right, then somebody should be fired.
I mean, can you imagine, like you said, 7th pick, right? And the Titans love tweeners. I don't get it. They love guys who they're not quite sure what position they're going to play when they draft them, and I do not understand that when you have such defined needs like the Titans have. Can you imagine the Bears after drafting Caleb Williams if they said, well, if he can't play quarterback, he can play slot receiver. Just put him over there. Or Malik Neighbors to the Giants, and the Giants brass going to a podium and saying, well, if it doesn't work out at wide receiver, we can put 40 pounds on him and play tight end. That could always happen too. We're just drafting humans with certain skill sets and certain size and speed and strength, and we can just play them wherever. And if it doesn't work out the spot we think it's going to work out, we can just move over. If you are drafting a player with a contingency plan to move positions with them, that is not the player you draft in the top 10. That is a player you draft in the 5th round or 6th or 7th, because you're saying, well, he lacks speed here, but if it doesn't work out, then maybe he can be a special teamer on this spot, or maybe he can go do this. You don't do that in the top 10. You don't do that where the Titans did the last 2 years with Skoronski and Latham. And because of that, I just have a very negative opinion of this pick. I did last night. We had our draft show at 6th and Peabody, and it was not a favorable reaction by me. Not as crazy as your reaction, not as negative, but I don't like it.
Chad Withrow is with us from Outkick. So I will say this. Bill Callahan did take Jedrick Wills, and he did flip him over to left tackle. He played right tackle at Alabama. He flipped him over to left tackle. Alex Leatherwood was the starting left tackle. Alex Leatherwood was a bum. And so the fact that he couldn't beat out Alex Leatherwood at college would say, well, why can't he play left tackle? And Wills has been a solid left tackle for the Browns. The problem I have with that is that Tua is left-handed. So Jedrick Wills was protecting the blind side of the quarterback. I look at J.C. Latham, and I see a right tackle. Like, I remember when Taylor Lewan was going through his contract, and Floyd, we were talking about, okay, well, what if they don't sign Lewan, and then what are they going to do? And Floyd was basically like, they don't have a choice. They have to sign Lewan. I'm like, really? He's like, they don't have a choice. I was like, well, they could, in theory, flip Conklin over to left tackle if they lose Lewan, because Conklin played left tackle in college. And Floyd looked at me and goes, no, Jack's a right tackle. I was like, he can't play left tackle? He goes, nope, he's a right tackle. And the difference between Lewan and Conklin is obviously the thicker body that Conklin has, and Lewan is kind of thinner and more nimble at left tackle. Latham, in my opinion, is more built like Conklin, and all the draft gurus, the same ones that told us, yeah, Skoronski's not playing tackle, dude. He's a guard. The same ones are saying, Latham could be a good right tackle, but he also might kick into right guard. Not one of those people said left tackle, and that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, I think Latham is a great tone-setting right tackle. That's a guy that Jim Harbaugh, all the talk was about Jim Harbaugh liking Latham, and he ends up getting Joe Alt, which was a brilliant move. But that's a Jim Harbaugh type guy. Their GM comes from the Ravens. We had David Shaw on our show, former Stanford coach, who coached the Ravens and coached Jim Harbaugh, and he called it. I mean, he said, you look at Jim and their GM with the Ravens background, and he said that Ravens dynasty started when they drafted Jonathan Ogden, and that was the tone setter for those teams. He said, so look for an offensive lineman from Jim Harbaugh in that group. That's what he wants to do. That's where he wants to set the pace and set the tone, and he ends up getting Joe Alt. I think J.C. Latham, when you watch him play, he's a dump truck. I mean, he is an earth mover, and that's what you want at right tackle, guys who can move bodies.
He'd be the perfect right tackle.
Alabama.
He'd be the perfect right tackle to come in and replace Jack Conklin when Jack Conklin left in free agency with that Derrick Henry team, with Tannehill at quarterback, LaJuan at left tackle. Like, if you had said, okay, Conklin's out and we're replacing him with Latham, perfect pick. Perfect. But that's not what this team's trying to be.
Right tackle. He's a great right tackle. If you were bringing him in late first-round pick, to be a right tackle, I think that's a great pick. But, again, it's all of this convoluted. He's going to play left tackle, but if that doesn't work out, we can move him inside. And he hasn't played left tackle since high school. And I just want the Titans to pick a guy that they know exactly who he is and what he's going to be. If they drafted Rome Odunze last night, is there any doubting what he is for the Titans?
Sure, Bowers.
He is a very good wide receiver. He's tall, he's rangy, he's fast. He has number one potential as a wide receiver right out of the gates. You know exactly what that is. If they draft Brock Bowers, we're not asking questions today. Boy, I wonder Brock Bowers, what he is and what he does well. We know exactly what Brock Bowers does well. He is a jumbo slot receiver, essentially, as a tight end that can get open and can make big plays. And they draft instead a guy that's a right tackle and they want him to play left tackle. And I just continue to scratch my head not understanding why they would do this.
Also, Diana Rossini came out right after the pick and said, this was Bill Callahan's favorite offensive lineman in the draft, and that made me mad because,
that sold all the Titans fans. To your point about everyone being over it and okay with the pick by 2 p.m. today, to me, that's where it shifted. Once people saw that quote and that report from Diana Rossini, okay, all right, it's fine. That's Bill Callahan. If it's his favorite player, it's good enough for me. Doesn't matter if he doesn't have a position. Doesn't matter if he's possibly playing out of position. If Bill Callahan loves him most, then he's fine.
He's a new GM.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, at least for the offensive line, he's a new GM. He's the offensive line GM.
So I asked Mark Dominic yesterday on the show. I asked Mark Dominic, I said, because, Dominic's huge on Bowers. And I said, if you're the GM and Bill Callahan and Brian Callahan are begging you to draft Joe Alt over Brock Bowers, what would you say to them? And he said second-year GM Mark Dominic would be persuaded by those guys. He says 54-year-old Mark Dominic would say, sorry, we're taking Brock Bowers, and we'll figure out tackle. And I truly feel like, I think Rand Carthon will go along with the group no matter what. I think they kind of demoted him anyways and put Chad Brinker ahead of him. But I absolutely think that this was Daddy telling Brian Callahan, this is the guy I want. Brian Callahan telling Rand, this is the guy I want. Rand saying, okay, turn the card in.
It feels like it, especially when the first big report after the pick is what you mentioned from Rossini. Not what Brian Callahan thought about it, not what Rand Carthon thought about it. And I understand that she has sources and she's going to go to her source, and they may not be a source. But what was the first impression we got? What Bill Callahan thought about the Titans' number 7 overall pick. So I think that is telling.
And I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on Bill Callahan because I'm not. He's a great line coach and much better than what they've had, but he's not the GM. And that's there's a delineation here. The other thing, and the last thought on Latham before we get to the hot seat. Last night they were asked for a comp, Carthon and Callahan, and they paused for a second, and Rand said, I compare him to the guys that block their man. And then Callahan laughed and was like, yeah, I don't do comps. Even though Callahan got up at his OTA press conference and he said that his dad is so smart, is so advanced and experienced with the offensive line that he's throwing comps out there that the scouts don't even know about because it goes so far back. So clearly the Titans do comps. They just either didn't want to tell you what their comp was yesterday or they just didn't worry about it before they made the 7th pick.
Yeah, they're afraid to throw out a name, and then now the standard is that name.
Why?
For everyone, and then, so they don't want the comparison from the fan base if it doesn't work out. That you said this guy is Jonathan Ogden or whatever the player is, and that he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not Anthony Munoz. So now I'm upset. So that's what they're trying to guard against.
Chad Withrow is with us from Outkick on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. The Hot Seat Draft Edition. We will get to round 2. The Titans don't have a pick in round 3, but we'll get to round 2 with Chad. We'll do that. And, of course, the rest of the NFL Draft. Everything else is on the Hot Seat. Live from Bridgestone Arena. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Chad, it's hot seat time. Do you have a thought ahead of round 2 tonight, or do you want to go right to the hot seat?
Well, let's get right to the hot seat.
Okay. Your life, your kids, your family, it's on the line. You have to build a great football team. You get 3 years to do it. Your choice of general manager is either John Robinson or Rand Carthon. Who are you picking?
John Robinson. I know more about John Robinson. I've seen John Robinson have success. I've seen him have failures also. That ultimately cost him his job. But he's got a longer track record. I like the New England background a little bit better with John Robinson, and I've seen him do more. This is not a diss at Rand Carthon. It's me saying I don't have a big enough body of work for Rand Carthon to confidently say that I'd like to build a franchise with him. I've seen enough from John Robinson to know that there's some good there. So if my life depended on it, I'm going with John Robinson to build my franchise.
My thing with Robinson is you just got to get him back to the original Robinson that, was working with Mike Mularkey and listened to Blake Bedingfield, and not the Robinson that just shut the door and decided he was going to make every decision himself.
Yeah, so something happened along the way with John Robinson. I'm with you. But, even with that, John Robinson, I would take over Rand Carthon right now because I haven't seen enough from Rand Carthon, and very much a mixed bag out of the gate in year 1 with the draft, and we'll see how the rest of this draft turns out.
What was the stupider decision last night? Michael Penix at 8 with a team that already had Kirk Cousins, or Bo Nix at 12 to Denver?
I'm going to say Bo Nix at 12 to Denver only because I love Michael Penix Jr. so much. I like Michael Penix Jr. better than Caleb Williams. I think he was the biggest sleeper in this draft, and I could not for the life of me understand why we weren't talking more about Michael Penix Jr. being the guy that the Vikings might trade up to get as opposed to J.J. McCarthy. I think he's way better than McCarthy. I think he's going to have a way better pro career. I know that he's going to be 24 when the season starts, which is a bit of a knock on him. But I love Michael Penix Jr. Do I love that pick for Atlanta? Absolutely not. With what they did with Kirk Cousins. That part of it really doesn't make much sense. But I can understand the thinking that if you feel like you've got a stud franchise quarterback that's going to win games for you and not just be there, then you probably go and draft him, even though it doesn't make a lot of logical sense because of the Kirk Cousins situation. I don't fully believe in Bo Nix. I think he's got some traits that are very desirable. But when you look at him at Auburn, I like the improvement to Oregon. I also have to think, how much of that improvement is playing at Oregon and not playing in the SEC at Auburn. How much can we attribute it to that? I don't love it, but paired with Sean Payton, who is a great quarterback coach, maybe it works out. But I'm going to go Bo Nix being the bigger head scratcher just because I love Penix so much. Which
pick last night for a specific team did you see and absolutely love?
Oh, man. Malik Neighbors to the Giants. Honestly, in that moment, Jared, I thought that they were going to do something stupid and draft J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, I wish they hadn't, and the Titans would have taken Malik Neighbors. Oh.
Well, and draft quarterback, right? Like, I was like, please. I was thinking all these reports about them loving McCarthy. They're going to draft a quarterback, and they shouldn't because of where they are right now. They need to try to support Daniel Jones around him and continue to see what they have there, and they just need so much, especially a wide receiver. And so I really like the Malik Neighbors pick because it was the first one of the night where I was thinking they were going to do something dumb, and they did the logical thing. So that's the one that jumps to mind.
Mine is Xavier Worthy. I think it's the perfect fit between player and team.
I love that one too. That was a great one, and that was the Chiefs trading up, right, to get him.
They traded up with Buffalo, and then Buffalo ends up trading out of the round. And last night, Brandon Beane has a press conference and is basically like, we can't be in the business of worrying about who other teams are going to take, because I think all the Bills fans are like, wait a minute, hold up. You just gave the Chiefs Xavier Worthy, like the fastest guy in the world.
My first thought was, oh boy, the Chiefs just found their next Tyreek Hill when they made that pick, and that's scary for everyone.
Well, you know what I was saying last night on the draft show in regards to Worthy was that I felt like, You know, all these guys that have run fast at the combine, like Tyquan Thornton a couple of years ago, I've never heard of these guys in college. You know, Troy Williamson years ago ran a fast 40, got drafted in the top 10 by the Vikings. I don't think he ever caught a pass in the NFL.
Well,
Worthy,
John Ross was another guy, right?
Yeah.
That went to Cincinnati.
Right.
That didn't do a lot. Yeah.
Worthy in the game 2 years ago against Alabama, when Texas was just beating the crap out of him, and then Quinn Ewers got hurt, and the Bryce Young non-safety end zone, whatever. In that game, for about the first 2 quarters before Ewers got hurt, Worthy was dominating. And he was dominating Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold like legitimate NFL corners. And it's like, that guy I know is not just a speed freak. He can catch the ball. So now he's got the best arm in the NFL, the best quarterback maybe ever throwing him the ball, and he's got the speed and he can catch the ball, unlike some of these other guys that run. I mean, again, he could get hurt or something could happen. Guys sometimes don't pan out. But this is a pick that I'm like, oh, my God, the Chiefs, they just throw it deep to him every play.
Isn't it funny how you can be, relatively cheap and not have great facilities and be voted as one of the worst organizations for helping their players like the Chiefs are routinely, but just be so masterfully smart that you're always going to be in the Super Bowl mix the way the Chiefs are?
Unbelievable.
When you look at their decisions, you think, oh, yeah, well, it's not just Patrick Mahomes. This is why they win multiple Super Bowls, because they're smart enough to make moves like this that just make too much sense for the rest of the league to understand. And that's a good point. The Worthy pick is one at the end of the first round that I also love.
What position do you think the Titans need to focus on going into round 2 tonight?
Left tackle, because they didn't draft one in the first round. I still think offensive line. I know the plan is for Latham to play left tackle, but I mean, right tackle, I don't think they're really solid there right now. Receiver is going to be a talking point. Tight end, another one. I do think this second round pick is one, if you have the right edge rusher, because there were practically no defensive players drafted last night, so you're going to have some of the top defensive guys left. With the first round, I've been saying this consistently, go get a position. This isn't a luxury pick to go get best available. I think that defensively, this is a spot where, you can get a little bit luxurious because of the amount of talent that could still be there. So if it's a big time edge rusher that they love, I wouldn't mind that in this spot. But other than that, I'm still looking around on the offensive line, and I'm seeing some needs because of that first round pick. Which
receiver would you like the best as a fit for the Titans? And they're not all former SEC receivers, but for the most part, A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey. I guess they're both 2 former Georgia receivers there. A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Troy Franklin out of Oregon, Jalen Polk out of Washington. Out of that group, which receiver would you like the best?
I love Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is a guy that is sneaky athletic because I think most of the time people see white receiver and they think, all the old tropes, great locker room guy, really good to be around, all these different things. Ladd McConkey's a burner. Look at his 40 time compared to a lot of these other guys.
4.39.
Yes, McConkey was very impressive to me at Georgia, more than A.D. Mitchell, even when he was at Georgia in Texas. So I'm a big Ladd McConkey guy, but I like all those guys that you threw out for the Titans. That's where I think it's going to get tricky at 38 because I believe, Jared, that's going to be the run tonight. I think we're going to see 2, 3, 4 of those guys at least go off the board before it gets to the Titans. I don't think McConkey's going to be there for them, but I would love that pick for them if he's available.
Would you trade the 38th pick straight up for Brandon Ayuk?
Oh, yes, I would. Pairing Ayuk with Calvin Ridley, with DeAndre Hopkins, yeah, I think I would, because Ayuk also could be kind of a bigger slot guy for you in that rotation. We all agree that Kyle Phillips is not the guy, right?
Yes. Well,
okay, so
Joe Rex wrote in the morning, those guys, you have to, probably talk to them. But on this program, yes.
All right, on this show, you and I are in agreement. Kyle Phillips not the guy, so you got to go in a different direction there. It's why I keep referring to Brock Bowers as he's like a giant slot. The way he plays the game, he's not really an inline blocking tight end, but who cares? because he's so skilled at catching the ball and getting open that he can be that safety valve for you and that type of player. And I think Ayuk can be that guy too. So yeah, I would do that if I were the Titans.
Would you trade the 38th pick for Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, same thing. Same reason for Ayuk. I think that I would. Now this is all contingent upon who's available, right? If Vlad McConkey's available or the receiver that the Titans really want in the second round, the value of what you're going to pay contract-wise is going to be way more advantageous to just draft that guy.
Right.
As opposed to trading for a veteran.
Which is why I don't think T. Higgins is on another team yet.
Yeah, if the receiver that all your receivers are off the board with the first few picks tonight that you want, and that's an option, then make the trade. But if you still have a guy there that you really like, go draft that guy.
Do you think the Titans should trade out of 38 to try to recoup the third rounder that they don't have, that they used to trade up last year in order to get Will Levis?
Again, contingent on if that receiver that you want isn't there. Or that, right before you pick the edge rusher that you were about to take. That's one of the best edge rushers around because no defensive guys were really taken last night. If they're not there, then I think you trade back and try to pick up more picks. So it's impossible for me to answer right now, not knowing who's going off the board.
So
like last year, Will Levis falling dictated to the Titans that they were going to trade up and get him in the second round. So that completely changed their draft approach. My approach, my opinion, could completely change based on who goes before the Titans tonight.
So here's what's crazy about this 38th pick is I really think, there's going to be at least one guy at a position that is good enough for that pick to probably start right away, whether it's one of the four receivers I brought up, which I think we can agree is probably a position of need, Jatavion Sanders, the tight end out of Texas, who I think is probably maybe a little too rich at 38, but is clearly the number 2 tight end, and there are no tight ends after him, and I think Chig's not very good, so I could pick that. Kingsley Suamataia, the right tackle out of BYU, who Trevor just absolutely loves. He could be a guy that you pick, and he can be your right tackle to go with Latham, who they're going to try at left tackle. Like, each one of those guys can be there. But I've learned over the years that with Rand Carthon, once he gets an idea in his head, he's going to do it. So if he decides he's going to trade out, no matter who's there, he's going to trade out, and that worries me.
Yeah, and that's what you can't have. You got to let who goes before you dictate your decision to trade out or not. I do like the right tackle from BYU. I know he's a bit more of a project type player and prospect, so I don't know that I would love that for the Titans, given the project that is J.C. Latham at left tackle that they're going to try also. But I think if the guys you have circled that you will, it's a must take at 38, whether that be receiver, one of the top tight ends, or edge rusher. If those guys are gone picks 33 through 37, then I think you look into trading out. But if not, I'm sticking and picking one of those dudes.
What was the most surprising part of last night for you?
I mean, it was Michael Penix Jr. being drafted by the Falcons. That's the one that shocked me, because the Falcons was the one. I actually placed a bet on no defensive players going in the top 10. I think it was like plus 550, and I won that bet. And I pretty much knew I was going to when I saw what the Bears were doing at 9 with Rome Odunze. But that was dictated by the Falcons not taking a defensive guy, because every mock draft had the Falcons taking an edge rusher and going defense, because they drafted so many skill guys in Atlanta over the recent years, and they end up picking a quarterback. So that was, I think that was probably the most shocking point for everyone. It certainly was for me.
What do you make of Cousins, by the way, coming out and saying that he wasn't given a heads up? That seems like not a good beginning to a very lucrative and long marriage.
Well, there was a report that they called him before making the pick, but just told him what they were going to do, and his response was like, yeah, I was given a heads up that quarterback was a potential later in the draft, that they needed to draft an heir apparent, but it would be later in the draft. So when he signed, that these were discussions his agent he had with the Falcons, that, yeah, we might take a guy that's, we're going to groom to maybe be the next guy late in the draft. He said, so to say that when they picked a guy at 8 in the first round, the top 10, that was surprising to him. I think that was his words, or that was the report. It's crazy. But, also, we had our show last night, and someone said, Well, doesn't that put a ton of pressure? Like Kirk Cousins is under a lot of pressure now, and I'm thinking, no, he's not. Kirk Cousins is one and done now. Kirk Cousins is like, let's go to Atlanta, let it rip, and then see if I can get another contract and go play 2 or 3 more years to close out my career somewhere else.
So true.
I don't think there's any pressure on him now because it's clear they don't want him to be there after this 1 year tops. So I think the pressure's off of Kirk Cousins now.
Chad Withrow from Outkick. Chad, great stuff as always. Enjoy the weekend, and we will see what happens in rounds 2 and 3 tonight, and we'll see what the Predators do tonight.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, and go Preds this weekend as they try to do some damage in this first round. Thanks, Jared.
Yep, Chad Withrow from Outkick. Okay, I'm done bitching for right now about J.C. Latham. We're moving on to round 2. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. It's Fireball Hot Take Friday, and you know that means it's time to enjoy ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. That's right, Fireball Whiskey goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. And there is no better way to celebrate the weekend, the draft, the playoffs, whatever it may be, than with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I love Fireball, and you will too. So do it responsibly. Be 21 years or older to enjoy. And enjoy by igniting the night with Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. What kind of positions do we think the Titans maybe look at going into tomorrow, knowing that there's about 5 picks before they're on the board at 38?
I think they address the defensive line. Defensive line, the inside backer. I don't think they touch receiver until the 4th round because they don't have a 3rd round pick unless they trade and get themselves a 3rd round pick. But I don't think they touch wide receiver in the 2nd round. I think they get a defensive player. I think they get that wide receiver in the 4th round.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Derek. I mean, I would go defense also. Chris Jenkins from Michigan and the inside linebacker, Peyton Wilson from North Carolina State. So, you look at the situation. I know the wide receiver, I wish they would have had a chance to get Leggett, but at the end of the day, I think you got to go defense.
I could see another inside linebacker. I could see another offensive lineman. Build from the inside out.
There you go. That was the draft show last night. So tonight the Titans are on the clock at 38, which means Buffalo, New England, Arizona, Washington, and the Chargers go, and then you're on the clock. So here's the list for me for tonight for the Titans. Now, I would say there's so many good players I like that they can't possibly mess this up. But didn't I kind of say that yesterday, Ian?
You did 100% said that yesterday.
And then what did they do?
Well, in your opinion, you think they kind of messed it up.
Do you think they messed up?
I'm not ready to go there yet. No.
You got it right, by the way, of like you and 4 other people on the Titans mock draft on.
I saw that. Jim Wyatt put that tweet out there and mentioned a couple of us. So, yeah, blind squirrel finds a nut here and there.
Ian for 3, baby. Okay, here's the list in order of how bad I want them. Number 1, Johnny Newton, the defensive lineman out of Illinois. I am shocked he did not go in the first 27 picks last night. Number 2, Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver out of Georgia. I think McConkey would come in immediately and play the slot. He is fast as crap, and he's reliable and has played against high-level competition. McConkey's number 2. Number 3, Cooper DeJean, the corner, and I think he's a corner, not a safety, out of Iowa. Quite frankly, I think some people think that he's a safety because he's white. But, he is, I think, really fast, and he's a great punt returner. And what did Mike Vrabel say, Ian?
Rand, give me some returners.
Get us some returners. Number 4, A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas. I don't buy the bad attitude, diabetes. I think that was to tank his draft stock. I don't buy it. Number 5, Kingsley Suamataye, the right tackle out of BYU. You got a left tackle, get a right tackle, let big coach him up and go from there. Number 6, Edgerrin Cooper, the inside linebacker out of A&M. I think he's a stud, and he can be your inside backer that you need. Number 7, Chris Braswell, the edge rusher out of Alabama. Number 8, TJ Tampa, the corner out of Iowa State. Very good player. And number 9, and this is on the list for TD, Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State. Considering that there are 5 picks before you pick, you absolutely can get one of these picks. Here's one interesting trade. You know what? I've got the interesting trade on the other side that I think the Titans could pull off tonight. Plus, I promised Preds tickets earlier. Maybe you'll hear your opportunity to win those. We'll see. Let's talk about FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right, I love FanDuel Sportsbook. The road to the NBA Finals starts now, and new customers on FanDuel can go on their own with a playoff run with a $150 bucks. Just place any $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, to use during the NBA playoffs. Bet on 3-pointers made in a game, over under point total, first basket score, and more. Go to FanDuel.com/JGM to get started. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 and over in President Tennessee. First online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues, non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. So the Titans are on the clock at 38. And again, I got a list of guys. If they take any of these guys, I'll be happy. But here's a question I have. Buffalo's on the clock. Buffalo's got to go receiver, right? So let's pin them in for A.D. Mitchell in this case. New England's on the clock. They got to go tackle or wide receiver. So let's pin them in, for one of these guys. Arizona's on the clock. Now, Arizona could trade this pick. But there's one name that I keep coming back to that didn't make it from last night. And I always said there was going to be a guy who everybody thought was a for sure first rounder who was going to fall into day two. It happens every year. And Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon, is that guy in this year's draft. Well, you would say, Jared, why are you bringing up Jackson Powers Johnson? The Titans don't need him. They've got a center in Lloyd Cushenberry who they paid $1 gazillion to, and you're right. But here's something I would at least do. I'd at least kick the tires on if I were the Titans. I would pick up the phone, and when I pick up the phone, I would call Philadelphia. And I would say to Philadelphia, I go, you got 2 second-round picks. And in these 2 second-round picks that you have, El Presidente, in these 2 second-round picks that they've got, I'll call you, and I'll offer you 38, which could be Jackson Powers Johnson. I'll offer you that. You give me your 2 second-round picks at 50 and 53, and I'll give you 106. Now, the value, as far as the chips are concerned, is not great. That's a very good value for the Titans to get the 2 second-rounders. But for the Eagles, you get the replacement for Jason Kelsey, who, again, a lot of people thought was going to be a top 20 pick. Ian, what do you think of my proposed trade?
I don't hate it. I'm down.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It makes sense.
So I would just keep that in mind as a possibility here on the program. Now, I told Ian earlier this hour, I said, Ian, I want you to X these phones out. And he said, well, we're going to X these phones out. Why are we going to X these phones out? Because I said earlier today, I was going to give you a code word to win tickets to game number 4. They got to remember the code word, though. And now's a good time to plug that before game number 4, a special edition of Stillman and Company at 1 o'clock at Hank's Bar. So with that, before Hal Gill joins us ahead of game number 3, if you remember the code word, when I tell Ian to unex the phones, Ian, is your hand on that button?
I'm ready.
Okay, when I tell Ian to unex the phones, you got to call, but you can't call before. Ian, you may unleash the hounds. First person to call Ian and give him the code word, and it's a very personal code word to me. This one's very personal. You win the tickets to game number 4, which again is at 4 o'clock in a special Stillman and Company at Hank's downtown, 1 to 3. We'll see everybody then. Hal Gill joins us next, Stillman and Company, live from Bridgestone Arena, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, Bridgestone Arena, inside of Barrel House, ahead on this Fireball Hot Take Friday of game number 3 between the Preds and the Canucks. And a reminder, a special Stillman and Company, 1 o'clock on Sunday from Hank's Downtown. We are joined now by Hal Gill, Predators analyst here on the program. Hal, your initial takeaways from games 1 and 2 in Vancouver.
Whoa, that's a loaded question. That's a lot to cover because that was two different games. I feel like the first game, the Preds didn't have their game. I don't think they were as sharp as they could have been, and I think they were a little bit rusty after a week off. But they were good. They were in a position. If it wasn't for 12 seconds, I think that momentum change and playing in another team's building, they really rallied around that. It was loud, and they got the 2 bang-bang goals, and then it was like, whoa, okay, now we're in one. They didn't play their best, and they still almost pulled it off. The game 2, I thought they got to their game, and they started playing well, but they kind of petered out at the end. And so I think that was a better game. They got the win, but I think Vancouver is on the other side going, hey, we should have won that game. We could have won that game. We had a lot of chances. We put pressure on in the third. So, that long story short, it's 1-1. And that's the best part about the playoffs is it doesn't matter how you win a game as long as you win a game. And then you go and you try to win the next one. And, if you never lose back-to-back games, you just keep kind of rolling and you go out and you win a series. So I think right now they broke serve on the road, so I'm excited to be back home. I know these guys are. I know Smashville is. It's going to be loud. It's going to be awesome. And it's 1-1 series. You can take the lead with this one.
So I do wonder this, which was you brought up kind of the difference in the games. I didn't think the Predators played very well in game number 2. Now, that being said, I'm not sure I really care because, again, in the playoffs, all that matters is whether or not you win or you lose. I do think that in this series in particular, the matchups really, really matter. I see, Tommy Novak in game 2 plays 8 minutes of ice time in even strength.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is Andrew Burnett trying to hide, that line where maybe they're not as physical as the matchups that Vancouver put in front of them. Thought JT Miller absolutely took advantage of the matchups that he was seeing in Vancouver. How much do you think that the matchups and Andrew Burnett getting to dictate that tonight makes a difference of what we're going to see between games 1 and 2 and game 3 tonight?
Yeah, there's 2 different there's 2 matchups that we're looking for. We're looking for a line matchup, right? Hey, I want my first against their first, my second against their third, and then I want, you go all the way down and you decide what matchups you want. The other matchup that I think is more important than this series, because I do think Vancouver, I've been impressed with their game. Like they're deep. They have 3 really good lines, 3 really good centermen, and even their fourth line is they can go out there and perform. It's not a weakness. And so I think matching up lines is going to be tough. I think more what Bruno will be looking for, especially tonight, is can you get some offensive zone pressure so that you can get offensive zone starts from Novak line? Can you get them out in the offensive zone as opposed to being trapped in your zone over and over again and playing that D zone start where you go, okay, we can't match up. We can't throw that line out there. We want them to start and have possession. Maybe you have and that's where the fourth line comes in big in the beginning of games. That's why the Preds have good starts. They go out and maybe they don't go score goals, but they get the forecheck going. They get an offensive zone draw, or they get action going in the offensive zone using that forecheck. And then the first line, O'Reilly jumps over the boards with Forsberg and Nyquist, and now you're attacking from the offensive side. And so I think that is more of an important matchup for what we're seeing, because I do think the Preds' defense have played solid, and they haven't given up much. I'd like to see them contribute a little bit more to the offense, moving the puck up quicker, but I think they've been good and solid against each line, and it's not easy. I mean, they have some top lines that are pretty awesome. Pettersson is, he's struggling right now. The Preds want to keep it that way, but it's going to be hard to keep him down. JT Miller, you said, was a beast. Brock Besser's got a great shot. I just think those guys have been kind of limited in their prime chances.
Hal Gill's with us on the program. So I know he scored in the last game, but Philip Forsberg, now for games 1 and 2 for the most part, didn't look like Philip Forsberg. And at the beginning of game 2, I was wondering who the imposter wearing number 9 was because I've been doing this now for 9 years. And you know this. I have complained about a lot of players, a lot of coaches, the list of who we haven't complained about, I think, is a lot shorter than who we have complained about. And I don't think on this program we've ever complained about Philip Forsberg, which, again, is kind of shocking for this program.
Well, the program is you. Are we?
Yes.
Let's not, because I'm on the program. Let's not put me in the program. You are the program.
Well, you've never complained about anybody. The players are great. The coaches
don't put it
are
off
great.
like, oh, the program is complaining about Forsberg. You are complaining about Forsberg. Now, are you going to tell me that we are complaining about Forsberg? Because we're not.
Here's the question. The question is, was it a matchup thing where, Vancouver is kind of trying to take him out of the game? Is it the layoff affected him, and then because of the layoff, he was maybe not in rhythm for game 1, and then that affected him with pressure into game 2? Is it an injury? What's going on?
Will you tell me, what would your game plan be? If you're Rick Tocchet, you look at our lineup, what would you say, what is the number one thing we have to take away?
The first line.
The first line.
Which is Forsberg's score.
You don't think they're focused on that?
But O'Reilly's been fine. Nyquist has been fine. In fact, I think Nyquist played pretty well this series.
I don't think they played poorly. I think they're playing against some really good defensemen. Quinn Hughes is great. They have some bigger guys to complement him. I think they're playing a hard game. I think Phil, the bottom line is Phil scored a beautiful goal when they need him to score a beautiful goal. And I always said, my best teammates, I had the guys I loved and my best friends, and my other best friends were the guys that scored goals. Because if you want to win, you need to score goals. And, you can throw away all the stat sheets. If a guy scores a big goal like Phil did, I'll take that. And so I don't think he's quite on his game, and I think it's going to be hard to get to where he can free flow and make his plays and be creative when there's a lot of big guys coming after him and chasing him down. I think they're playing tight against those guys. But you score a goal, and now you're coming home. I think it's going to be easier for him to get those offensive zone starts, and hopefully that line can click a little bit more. I think they've been good. I haven't been disappointed with them, but I do want more from them, and I think they want more from themselves. But a goal is a goal, and you'll take it.
What are you looking forward, Hal Gill's with us, what are you looking forward to seeing out of the power play as they kind of try to, it was good early in game 1, and then it kind of fell off, and in game 2, 0 for 4 on the power play. What do you want to see early to give you a sign that, okay, this power play is getting back to what it should be?
Yeah, I think, they had the O'Reilly goal, which is a beautiful goal in game 1. But then after that, they seemed to settle in. And I feel like it's a pretty good penalty kill for Vancouver. And if you settle in and you don't change the point of attack and you're not quick, and you watch their power play, they have a great power play, and they hum it around. They pass hard, and they're changing the angles hard, and they keep you on your toes. I think the penalty kill for the Preds has been phenomenal, and they're finding ways to block shots, get in pass lanes, and disrupt those plays. But I think the Preds need to take a page out of their book and move the puck around, move it with purpose, get the movement, get that bumper position to come in and use that. And if you look at the goal that O'Reilly scored, Nyquist is way out in a close support to Yossi. It goes down to Forsberg, back to Nyquist, and then they're able to move it around and triangulate and use that close support and quick puck movement to open up the weak side where O'Reilly is. And I think that's what they need to do more of, not just, hey, we're in an umbrella, let's move it up over, you gotta change the narrative and put guys out of position with your quickness and with your puck movement. And so I think I'd like to see more of that.
Hal Gill's with us. How much does the Demko injury affect kind of I don't want to say the psyche of Vancouver, but when the Demko news came out ahead of game 2, and people were saying to me, like, they were, what do you make of it, Jared? What does it mean? I'm like, honestly, it doesn't mean that the Predators need to do anything differently.
No.
Like, what are you going to play less hard because they got Casey DeSmith in there? But Casey DeSmith is not as good as Thatcher Demko.
No.
And I think it was very apparent in game 2 that Casey DeSmith's not Thatcher Demko. If you're Vancouver and he's out and you lose tonight or you lose these 2 games at Bridgestone Arena, does it kind of, as far as the psyche's concerned for them, kind of make them, what are we going to do without our goalie?
Yeah, no, I think I'm not in their locker room, But all it takes is one guy, maybe 2 or 3 guys to go, Demko would have stopped that one. Yeah. That one hurt. And then all of a sudden they're looking at the game a little differently, right? And then you're saying, okay, we need to be aggressive. We can't give up that shot. We got to force a little bit more. Maybe that opens up a passing lane. Maybe you force too hard. You get out of your game a little bit if you don't trust your goalie. And I'm not saying that they don't trust DeSmith. It seems like, they should just keep rolling and playing the way they play, and the Preds shouldn't change the way they play. But in the psyche, it matters. And if a guy gives up a good goalie, even when a good goalie gives up a bad goal, it's like, oof, that, like he's not on, and we got to play different now. And so I think you try to tell yourself it's all the same, it doesn't matter, but it certainly does. Demko's a great goalie, and one of the big reasons why everyone said this is going to be tough to beat Vancouver, well, he's out, and things change.
Do you think that the way this series is going, do you view this as, hey, hunker in, this is not going to be easy, this is going to be a 6-7 game type of series, or are you looking at it with, hey, Demko's out, 2 games at Bridgestone, the Predators have taken home ice, they can really take control of this series?
Yeah, well, I think the important, and I learned this maybe, five series in my career. You play 5 playoff series, and you say, okay, each one's different. Each one, the common theme is that you're playing the next game, and whether you're up 3-0 or down 3-0, you got to win that next game, and then you go to the next game after that. And when you're 1-1, I don't care how good the one team played, a series can turn, and either team can run the table. So
it's so funny you say that.
The mindset needs to be just play the next game.
It's so funny you say that because I think this is like maybe the 11th series that the Predators have been in since I've been on the air, something like that.
Yeah.
And before I used to kind of believe in, okay, they take the momentum back in here and they do this. And the way I view it now is like what happened after game 1. I'm like, whatever happened in game 1, it has nothing to do with game 2.
Yep.
And whatever is going to happen in game 2, like the fact that the Predators didn't have a single offensive possession inside the Vancouver zone in game 2 in the third period means absolutely nothing in my opinion, for game 3 tonight. And I really, it sounds like what you're saying is a cliche, but I do feel like in my experience of covering the NHL, like it really has nothing to do with whatever happened the other night has nothing to do. And I think these other sports like basketball, I think there is something maybe to that.
Yeah.
But in this, there is nothing that has to do with what happened in game 2 that's going to affect tonight.
Yeah, there's always the one-on-one matchup where, hey, this guy's really hard to play against, and you go out there and you get this guy's, wow, he drives the net hard, and this and you're battling, competing, but then all of a sudden, something happens and coaches change that matchup, and then all of a sudden you're playing against someone else in game 3. That happens all the time. Like there's all these different stories to each game, and so I think you have to, you cliche, but you have to live in the moment, and you have to go out because this is going to be a new game with a new crowd, with an atmosphere that's going to favor the Preds. I think it was the biggest challenge going into Vancouver was that crowd got humming. They scored a goal. Then 12
crowd.
seconds later, they scored another goal, and the place erupted. And that is hard. You talk about being hard to play in. That's a building that's hard to play in because they get that momentum, and that 12 seconds changed the game.
Yep.
The Preds are looking to get that here after their home crowd, but they have to make it happen, right? They have to score that first goal that got the crowd amped up, then it was loud, and then you go on the forecheck, and it's helter-skelter, and the place is going nuts, and they score another goal. Those are the momentum swings that I think need to be the focus for everyone, but specifically the Preds need to watch when Vancouver starts humming, they get confidence, and then they're a really good team. I think game 2, they kind of squashed that. They didn't give them those. Once they got a jump, they got a big hit, something happened, they kind of squashed it and then moved on. And I think they need to do that tonight, and hopefully the crowd gives them that big boost so that they can get the momentum going the other way.
Hal Gill, good to see you. As always, enjoy game 3 tonight.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Enjoy it. This is the best time of year, isn't it? It's beautiful out, playing playoff hockey. It's the best.
There you go.
Enjoy it.
Stillman and Company, we continue along. Predators game day is next, live from Bridgestone Arena, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Predators game day 102.5, 106.3. The game streaming live, of course, as always. And the game will be streaming live right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So tonight it's game number 3 of the Predators and the Vancouver Canucks. The series is tied at 1. Meanwhile, the big kind of storyline that doesn't have to do with the Predators necessarily, but is absolutely a big part of this series is the health of Vancouver goalie Thatcher Demko, which coming into today, we had heard that Thatcher Demko was week to week, which I interpreted as was out for the series. That's what Rick Tocchet said, the head coach at Vancouver the other night. And then, Ian, it came out today that Thatcher Demko was out for the rest of the playoffs, which I'm fine with. And now we're hearing, Ian, that apparently Thatcher Demko may not be out for the rest of the playoffs.
Well, Elliot Friedman said that he had heard, Elliot Friedman Sportsnet, that he had heard maybe some optimism around Thatcher Demko and that him making the trip perhaps is a good sign.
So keep an eye on that one. Now for this game, as far as Thatcher Demko is concerned, he is out. And he will not play Casey DeSmith back in net. He stinks. Predators need to take advantage of that. The Predators did recall forward Juuso Parssinen from Milwaukee. However, Andrew Burnett said yesterday the reason they did that was because they want Juuso Parssinen up with the big club, practicing with the big club, because I guess Milwaukee's on a week-long break. So I would not expect to see Juuso Parssinen go into the lineup unless they need him here in the Vancouver series. Speaking of Andrew Burnett, we've got the coach's take. Here's what the coach had to say ahead of game number 3.
Well, I'm looking for what we usually bring, and it's trying to get into our identity right away. You know, you understand home ice, not to get too excited, keep the emotions in check and be us. And that's going to be really important. We did a great job on the road, both periods, both starts, and it's going to be important tonight.
It's going to be huge for the Predators to get off to a good start, especially given the struggles of DeSmith in game 2. And if the Predators can get to DeSmith and cause kind of that, mental fraying, Hal was talking about, it only takes one guy to think, well, Thatcher Demko would have stopped that. The Predators are in good shape. And keep an eye on Anthony Beauvillier, one of the Barry Trotz boys acquired this year at the trade deadline. Beauvillier has been fabulous so far in the playoffs, including a goal to start game number 2, 1 minute and 14 seconds in. And it was his 6th career multi-playoff point game since June 7th of 2021, in which he had 2 assists against the Boston Bruins. That's going to do it for us. Stillman and company, we are out of here. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the draft and see what the Titans do at 38. Meanwhile, Max will have the pregame show up next and a special Stillman and company breaking down game 3, previewing game 4, Sunday at 1 o'clock. So we will see you Sunday, Stillman and company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.